Hello and welcome to. Wait a minute, is my mic on? It is. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Weekly Scroll podcast, where we discuss all things tabletop role playing. My name is Ryan, and today we will be reading through the second half of the wild and wacky science fantasy RPG Troika and giving it a rating. And my guest this week is one of my best friends and someone I've probably talked to about tabletop games more than just about anyone, my buddy Hunter. So you will see him a little bit later. But why don't we do what we do every week and kickstart the stream? So, you don't need any of that. What we have is one of the first streams where I actually have a Kickstarter item that came in, as opposed to just talking about what's backed. And what came in is this just absolutely gorgeous book. Let me take it out of the paper. The plastic. You guys can hear the unwrapping, maybe, if NVIDIA Broadcast doesn't cut it out. This gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Let's go back to this other window. Beautiful, beautiful book. It's called Arc, the Doom tabletop role-playing game. It is an absolutely stunning book. And an arc. So to describe it a little bit, and we will be discussing this on stream at some point. It is an absolutely fantastic book. It gives me. Let me read about it a little bit. Arc is a role-playing game where heroes defy cruel doomsday clock to save their world from a looming apocalypse. Rules light, tension heavy, dripping with deliciously dark yet lovingly written for all story makers at heart. The book, once again, I got the alt cover because of course I did, because that's what I do on Kickstarter, spend way too much money. And as you can see, I backed it at $60. I got the Scarlet Edition hardcover. Let's see if they have an image for those watching the stream of what the regular hardcover looked like. Yes, there's the original edition right here. Again, for those on stream. What I should do is copy paste that and throw it into our Discord channel so you can see the difference. We'll see if I do. Follow our Discord. And what I got is the Scarlet Edition hardcover. Definitely a good buy in my opinion. It's this very the art is it's very unique. It gives me, I don't even know what vibes. But the original cover is more of kind of a like a landscape in a very graphic design way, and the Scarlet Edition cover is a skull, so with a third eye. So that's of course what I got. When you look at the book, it's gorgeous even from the side because you can tell the things inside have these color-coded tabs. And inside, it's very, I don't really know how to describe it except for graphically designed. Like, it looks like modern graphic design. Going back to the other window again, you can see a little bit of obviously the green parts are cut out. I'm in front of a green screen. But the way that the text is laid out, the fonts that are used, all of it, it's again very, that's all I can say is modern graphic design. Again, the fonts that are used, the layouts on the pages, the art style, it's gorgeous. It's an absolutely stunning book. I'm very, very, very excited for it. The back of the book says, "The clock is ticking. Create heroes, explore worlds, and embark on exhilarating adventures as you race against the clock to slay the apocalypse in this tabletop role-playing game. Ready your sword. Draw your best spells, for tonight we save the world." And this was put out by Exalted Funeral, one of my favorite, I guess, producers of content, distributors of content that there is. So if you don't know Exalted Funeral and you feel like spending a lot of money, go check them out. They recently did a Kickstarter that I don't think I've talked about called the Herbalist Primer. So we'll see when that comes in if we talk about that. But again, this is Arc. It is a gorgeous book. The premise seems amazing. It was funded in 23 minutes. Let's go back to this window. What was their total funding for this project? I know it was pretty crazy high. They ended up at almost $90,000 for this project. So well worth it. The book is stunning once again. I can't wait to check it out. I will add this to the list of books that we are going to go through. Where it's sitting in at right around 170 pages, including the index. So that might be a two-parter when we get to it. But again, that is Arc. Um, yeah, I'm gonna slide this bad boy back in plastic. It's got that beautiful kind of matte finish on it that can sometimes attract fingerprints. So I'm gonna leave it in the plastic for now until I can get it up on my shelf, which needs to be rearranged once again because too many books came in. The other thing that I want to talk about this morning is another Kickstarter project that I backed for like $1. Um, and I wanted to show all of that to you. It's a very, very interesting piece of content. Um, it is called Crimson Escalation. It was put out by Rob Couture. Seems like he puts out a lot of interesting content, a ton of Kickstarters. Um, and this one is definitely something I want to explore at some point. Basically, the premise of this, and if you look at the front cover and the initial front page, um, it's got a very like death metal logo thing going on the front, black and red. Um, and basically, this is a quick. It's 9 pages on here, but it doesn't take that long to actually do anything with or go over. Basically, it is a game mechanic that speeds up combat encounters in a very interesting way. So basically, what this does, let me blow out some of this. A lot of it's just art, cool art, but unnecessary for what we're looking at right now. Um, Basically, what Crimson Escalation does is give you a system where you can, where what you do is have progressive crits, right? So nat 20, you crit, unless you're a fighter in D&D 5th edition. And you get like, or I think even barbarians maybe get the improved critical, right? You only crit on a 20. Um, but in this system, basically, it says it is a progressive critical hit range that grows incrementally wider each round. This goes for both the adventuring party and their opponents, including monsters and NPCs. Critical hits have two benefits. First, you automatically hit whatever it is you're attacking, obviously. Second, whatever damage is normally rolled, double that amount, depending on what you do. Our personal table rule is if you crit something, you do one full, all of your dice, you do max damage once. Um, and then you roll your dice again. Because too many times I've seen people roll double damage or roll damage and double it, and it could still be less than one full damage. So if your damage dice is a d6, for example, you could roll two d6s and get anywhere from 2 to 12. But if you get 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, it's the same as if you just rolled well on one dice. That doesn't make sense to me. So what we do for our personal table is if you have a d6 and you crit, you just do 6 points of damage plus a d6. Does that make sense? So sneak attack is a whole lot of damage. So on round 1, everyone has a natural 20 crit range. On round 2, everyone crits on a 19 or a 20. On round 3, it's an 18, 19, or 20. So basically, every round, you decrease the crit range by 1. And there's a really fun graphic that comes with it. Kind of unnecessary. That's really all you need to say. Even 9 pages kind of unnecessary. 9 pages. But it's a visual aid. And then they have this 10 commandments of immersion, which is basically just 10 things to get players more immersed. It's an interesting read. I'm not going to go over it right now. But long story short, as I said, what Crimson Escalation is, and it's an interesting, super simple thing to do if you want brutal, fast combat, is every round you just decrease the range at which you crit. So again, first round 20, second round 19 to 20, third round 18 to 20, fourth round 17 to 20, etc., etc., etc. And by round 11, you crit on anything from a 10 to a 20. Um, if you actually get to round 11, critting on things from 10 to 20. Again, for 5th edition, it's interesting, brutal, fun. I think I backed this for $1 on Kickstarter, and got this cool, well done PDF. A lot of blood splatter, cool logo, and yeah. So in my opinion, totally worth it for $1. Um, so yeah, that is about all we're going to talk about with Kickstart the Stream this week. I believe, let me see if there's anything else that I backed that I didn't talk about last week. Um, sure. One more thing. It is Creature Feature Quarterly, Volume 9, from, oh gosh, what is his name? Jeremy Hart Elos. Um, Obviously, number 9 generally indicates there's a 1 through 8, which I backed previously. And what this is new monsters, paper minis, and VTT tokens for old school essentials put out by Necrotic Gnome. It's interesting. What I really like about it is the art. The art's pretty neat. It's just simple, black and white, kind of sketchy ink. Well, I assume probably Procreate drawings. But it's a ton of monsters. I have I could bring up some of the other ones. I won't. Maybe next week. But you get the paper minis and the VTT tokens too. But it's a lot of fun, dark monsters for old school essentials. So you get really, really like monstrous, creepy, somewhat Lovecraftian monsters for OSE. OSE being a game that I really, really want to play at some point, and we will probably do that here on the Adventure Archive sometime on a Thursday. I do have the all of the OSE Classic, all of the OSE Advanced books, and all 4 of the official published materials from Old School Essentials as far as games to run. So we will be running that at some point. And from what I've heard, OSE is one of the best modern iterations of the original like AD&D. So that is something that I will be running at some point, and if I choose to go off script, off module, these would be fun monsters to run that fit the vibe that I enjoy. And each one is basically just a PDF, no print option, and it's like $5 for 66 pages of pretty badass monsters, tokens, printable minis, etc. for all of these. So it's fun, it's interesting, it's cheap, it's content that I can use. That's why I went ahead and backed it. So that is Kickstart the Stream today. Not a whole lot. I'm really trying to reel it in as far as Kickstarter goes. If I'm not gonna use it, try not to back it. And if it's for 5th edition, I'm probably not going to back it anymore. I'm as I've probably discussed previously for those that have listened to this. I am really backing away from 5th edition for a ton of reasons that I'll get into again sometime, or listen to episode 1 in Merkborg, where I had a 5-minute kind of not hate session, disappointment session about 5th edition and WotC. So um, I'm not backing settings. I'm not backing adventures or anything for 5th edition, or really any content at all for 5th edition anymore. It'll mostly just be new games or expanded content for games that I already have. So that is Kickstart the Stream. Now, what we are doing for the bulk of today, as I said in the intro, is going over the second half of Troika. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and we can get into it. All right. Switch over to that, and here is Troika. So we got last week, we got through a good chunk of the book. We got through a lot of the rules, like rolling dice, oh, advanced skills, luck, stamina, initiative, actions, other concerns, damage, armor, encumbrance, and getting better, all the way through page 50. What's left is advanced skills, items, spells, enemies, and I think a little intro adventure that we'll go through. We can go through the character sheet as well and dig into some of the role tables now that we understand them a little bit better. Um, and we'll go over. I keep saying we. It is the royal we here, apparently, on the Adventure Archives weekly scroll. Um, but quick overview of the first half of the book. Um, Troika is mostly a. It is a system, not a setting. There is a lot of kind of content, like spells, but you can make your own. There are character backgrounds, but you can make your own. And the way they describe a lot of those things is basically Troika is. Let me actually just. I have a PDF right here. I'm flipping through a physical book, staring at a massive PDF. So, um, what Troika describes itself as is a science fantasy RPG in which players travel by Eldritch Portal and non-Euclidean Labyrinth and golden-sailed barge between the uncountable crystal spheres strung delicately across the hump-backed sky. Basically, there are an endless number of worlds in the universe, all in these crystal spheres, very Spelljammer-ish, if you will. And what the book plays itself off as is a game system to run, but it gives you various backgrounds, items, and spells that you could find in some of these spheres to give you just enough of a vibe. What do they say exactly? What you encounter in those spheres, in those liminal places, is anybody's guess. I wouldn't presume to tell you, though inside this book you will find people and artifacts from these worlds, which will suggest the shape of things. That's a very nice, interesting way to say these are just examples from across the universe. Use these examples to understand the vibe of Troika, which I think you get with the art and through those examples. So that is a little breakdown of the origin of the original half of the book that we did for last week. So check out episode 2, part 3, or episode 2, part 1. I apologize for the first half. What we have today, we're going to start on page 52. It is number 12 because the entire book is broken down uh, into listed numbers with sub numbers and stuff like that. Basically, a massive outline. We're going to go over the advanced skills. So, in most cases, the use of a skill requires a straight roll. I'm sorry. And another quick breakdown of Troika besides all that. It is a roll against or roll under system. So a lot of the times you will roll under for checks. And in combat, you will do a roll against. What's interesting about Troika, a couple of quick things from the beginning part. The stack, which is how you do initiative, is quite interesting. The stack, basically, all the characters and bad guys get tokens. Those tokens get chucked into a container, and you pull those tokens out of the container to determine an initiative order. And there's one token in there that is basically the end of the round, and that will end the round. Could come up first, could come last, could come anywhere in between. So you never know the order in which things are going to go. And then the roll against system is interesting because it's not if whoever wins when you do the roll against gets to damage the opponent, whether they initiated the action or not. So if you are fighting against 20 goblins and 20 goblins try to hit you, they do roll versus. If you win 20 times, you hit 20 goblins. That's how it works. You don't need to initiate the action. You only actually get one initiated action per round. But you can still damage things when they try to damage you. Very interesting. I like that part. Still not completely sold on the stack. But a lot of the roll under stuff is what we're talking about right now because we're talking about advanced skills. When we talked about get better last time as well, when you create your character, you get a couple of things. You get a skill number. You get a oh gosh, I wish stamina number. You get a luck number. You get some money. You get some starting equipment. And then you get a background. And in that background, you have advanced skills. When you get better, you none of your numbers go up except for the numbers on your advanced skills. You can learn. I can scroll back a little bit on here. You can learn new advanced skills. But for the most part, what you need to do to get better is roll against your existing advanced skills. Um, you choose up to 3 advanced skills or spells with a tick next to them. You get ticks when you succeed at things. Um, if you roll 2d6 over your current skill total, you may increase it by 1. So the only way you get better in this game is to actually increase your advanced skills or learn new advanced skills. So whatever you roll in the beginning for your skill, stamina, and luck are your skill, stamina, and luck forever. That is you. You don't get better at any of those things. You can only get better at learning. And when you're learning, it's when you're learning new skills, new advanced skills, actually. So, very interesting system. I enjoy very much. I'm currently working on my own system. And in that system, one of the things, what I really liked about gaming in a game like Merkborg is how squishy you are to start. And in my system, you stay relatively squishy. You can get slightly better for health. Um, and Troika does a really interesting kind of take on that, where you don't get better health at all. Your stamina is your stamina forever. And all you do is get better at things you can learn and get better at. It's interesting. I'm really, really, I'm into that. I'm into that a lot. So we'll see how that plays out. At some point, we will be playing Troika. Um, and I do have the all 3 of the books that originally came with the Numinous Edition starter kit, basically, from the Melsonian Art Council. We're probably doing oh gosh, what is the name of it? Acid. Let me look at the Googles to Troika Acid Death. Acid Death Fantasy is the name of the book. It's kind of like a wacky Dark Sun is what I hear. We'll see how much that actually holds up when we do it. But anyway, so getting into the advanced skills. In most cases, the use of a skill requires a straight roll under skill total. It's your advanced skill plus your skill number. Situations where this isn't the case should be obvious. The available skills are not limited to those listed here. There should be rare fare available for those who search for it, or maybe a character just feels driven to learn the intricacies of farming or opera for some peculiar reason. You may notice some skills in the background sections that don't have entries. Make those up. Um, oh, hey. Good morning, Steph. How are you? I don't have a Steph command in the Adventure Archive. I just have a Gilded Troll command. For those listening, please go check out the Gilded Troll on Twitch and YouTube. They are wonderful people, especially Steph. So, quick little water break. All right. Continue with the advanced skill descriptions. Since the players don't ever have to waste time picking through the whole selection, don't be afraid of expanding the list and making them more and more specific. So there is a list here of advanced skills. Let's read through a bunch of them just to see. Dang, there's a lot. There's like 4 pages of them. I will not read through all of these. I do like this idea of having these skills and things like that. So let's read through some of them. Acrobatics, used for rolling, balancing, falling, jumping. There you go. Astrology, an essential skill for anyone intent on traveling the stars. Can be used to identify stars, constellations, Together, hints on the destination of interdimensional portals and to make star charts. Awareness, self-explanatory. Climb, usefulness of the ability to clamber up things cannot be overstated. Crafting skills. Let's look at some fun ones, some fun, interesting ones. Disguise. Again, a lot of these sound self-evident. Etiquette. Evaluate. Test this to get an idea of how much something is worth. Okay. Fly. Use fly much as you would run. In normal situations, this doesn't need testing, only in chases or high winds, maybe. Anyone attempting to fly without skill must test every round to make sure they don't crash or lose control. I assume that is in some type of flying machine, not just standing up and supermaning. Golden barge pilot. We talked about golden barges earlier. They are used to travel across the humpback sky to the various crystal spheres. Healing. Interesting. Languages, okay, represents relative competence in specific language. Locksmithing. Mathmology. What is mathmology? Use this to gain insight into angles, pressures, numbers, and other such arcane arts. You could, for instance, test your mathmology to get a good idea of the surface tension of a ball of inert plasmic goo, or to find the fulcrum for tripping a giant. Okay. Poison is interesting. You may test this skill during downtime to create a single dose of poison. Pick which kind it is when you make it. This list is non-exhaustive. More exotic ones may be available if you possess the knowledge and ingredients. There are 1d3 common poisons in Troika. It doesn't look like there's names for them. Poison number 1 causes anyone ingesting it to test their luck or skill for enemies, or lose 4d6 stamina. Okay, if I lost 4d6 stamina and I rolled really high, I'd be dead. My initial roll for my test character, I rolled it up last week, was 20. So 46, math says that's 24. You could die from one dose of this poison. Poison number 2, add 1 to all damage rolls while this is applied to piercing or edge weapons. Ooh, if you roll a 1 for damage, the poison is worn off. I enjoy that. Number 3, causes anyone ingesting it to fall unconscious for 1d6 hours. Poison number 1 is beef boy. 46 stamina when you could potentially have, less than 20, easily less than 30 stamina, is a beefy poison. All right, more advanced skills. There's ride, which riding things. Run, second sight, allows the detection of magic. Okay. You focus your inner eye, and all sorcerous activity glows faintly for a moment. Secret signs. You would, for example, be able to read the secret marks left on people's doorposts by fellow hobos. So it's basically like thieves can't. Sleight of hand, self-evident. Sneak, self-evident. Strength. Okay. Swim. There's a big breakdown of swim because swimming had a lot of breakdown previously as well, where it talks about having to hold your breath and things like that. So that's interesting. Tracking, again, it's to track stuff. Trapping. Setting traps, roll under your trapping skill and describe how the trap is made with the materials at hand. When someone wishes to disarm a trap, they must roll versus the original trap setter's trapping skill. Okay, that's interesting. It's not just a random number. It's literally rolling against whoever set the trap. So you need to know that. Ooh, if the GM doesn't know what that number should be, assume 6 to be pretty simple while 12 is incredibly hard. Scale it as appropriate. Tunnel fighting? That's a skill. That's a skill. Weapon fighting makes sense. Choose what general category of weapons this covers when you take the skill. Roll versus during combat when using the appropriate method of assault. The GM is encouraged to allow weapon categories to be broadly applicable, such as glaive fighting being equivalent to pole arm fighting. Okay, so super broad. Sword's a sword. Other. If a skill isn't listed here, then make it up. Anything can be a skill. From jousting to gambling to eating, skills are primarily used as flavor in the occasional fun instance where your incredibly specific and heretofore useless ability helps you and your friends out is priceless. I really enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot. All right, getting into items. If an item is not listed here, assume it adds a bonus of +1 to rolls associated with it. Lockpicks, for instance, would add +1 to lock rolls, while a rope would add +1 to climb, and so on. Makes sense. Reasonable. Um, what I like about this and some other kind of rules light OSR games is kind of the opposite of what 5e does. And I talked about this before, and I'll talk about it probably again in the future. The way 5e reads the rules is if the rules don't say you can do it, you can't. The way a lot of these rules light OSR games are one, use your common sense, and two, if the rules don't say you can't do it, go for it. Why the fuck not? So I enjoy that, and I enjoy this, where basically it's common sense. If you have a lockpick, it works on your lockpicking, and if you have a rope, it works on your climbing. That just makes sense. So, um, item bonuses only apply if you are trained in the skill they are meant to enhance. Lockpicks only give their bonus if you know how to use lockpicks. Again, reasonable. Um, an incomplete list of desirous things. So another list of random items. Oh, sorry, big astrological equipment requires 20 minutes to set up and use, but doesn't need to be outside. Consists of a ruby specular, charms against reciprocal observation, and complicated charts of the spheres. Grants +1 to astrology. You have a bale hook, the blue star maps of Corda, hold the secrets of travel between the spheres. Every juncture in space and time can be found on its mini square metered face if one is sufficiently educated in its use. Test astrology to tell the precise destination of any portal. Interesting. An Epop's staff is a tool, an advert, and in a pinch, a weapon. In its head is set a cloudy ruby. Oh man. Like a useless magnifying glass, which grants the user +1 second sight while peering through it. Interesting. A fusel is a rifle. Knuckle dice, two-sided dice. Okay. A pistolet is a handheld energy weapon. Plasma cores or crystallized starlight cast in metal. Um, that's a text message. Give me a second. We'll just edit that bit out. Probably won't because I'll forget. Pocket barometer um is part of the fashionable affectation for the metropolitan Troikan. Though the city has no discernible weather, it is considered polite to check it intermittently and comment on the present clemency and hope for it to continue into the future. Examining its quartz face informs you of future weather with 5 and 6 accuracy. Pocket gods are little cloth puppets made in the image of numerous gods. If you whisper a secret to one and throw it away, you regain 1 luck. Interesting. Another great graphic, very Troika. I don't know. A lot of the art reminds me of like Edward Gorey on acid in a circus tent. Ruby lorgnettes are collapsible spectacles made with ruby lenses that require a free hand to use. While wearing them, your sight is impaired, but you can see sorcerer's activity clearly. Interesting. Salt is the poor man's silver. Silver kills the demonic and the dead. Salt merely harms or bars. I like that. I like that a lot. Silver is the star metal, the most untouched material fallen from the humpbacked sky. Weapons made from it may inflict damage to creatures normally immune to material harm. They say humpback sky a lot. They do. Is that an actual saying? No, it's not. When you search up humped back sky, Humpbacked. All right, let's try that. Humpbacked sky. The only thing you get for humpbacked sky is Melsonian Art Council across the humpbacked sky. So, yeah. So, it's interesting. I think you're supposed to read it in context of what it actually means. Um, Sky that is humpbacked. So let me wipe my glasses real quick. I can't see anything without them. Tea set grants +1 to etiquette when you have the time to sit down and make tea for those who are trying to impress. You know what? You know what really strikes me with Troika? Troika feels very Douglas Adams. If any of you have read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's got this very, I don't know if it's, I know they ship, I think they ship from the UK, but it definitely has this very British um, kind of humor to it. I don't know how to describe British humor because it's not really self-deprecating, but it's interesting. Kind of how in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy you take a towel with you, but the towel can do a ton of different things. You can suck on it and get nutrients from it and all sorts of different stuff. But it's a fucking towel. Makes sense when you're reading it though. This game kind of reminds me of that a little bit, and especially in the way that they talk about things sometimes, like etiquette as a skill. Um, so you can get a tea set to increase your etiquette, which in a combat game or war game style stuff like that, you just simply wouldn't have that. But in this, not only do you get etiquette, you get tea sets so much to use your etiquette, which is interesting, and I enjoy it. The Valair, when inactive, looks like an ornate piece of costume jewelry, usually a brooch or a circlet. When active, it produces a full body disguise on the wearer formed from hard light. Grants +4 disguise, lasts for 24 hours. Excuse me. Witch hair ropes, manipulating magic. Okay, so that's items. We're getting into spells now. I won't read as many of these. I just want to read enough of them to get an understanding of the way that spells work here. To cast a spell, you must spend stamina. Whoa, 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 whoa. To cast a spell, you must spend stamina equal to the casting cost. So stamina in Troika is HP, basically. So in order to cast a spell, you have to actually spend your life energy to do that. And roll under your skill total in the spell you wish to cast. Double ones always succeed. Double sixes always fail. One of the things I'm not a huge fan of in this book so far is that um, there's some things that don't have consistency, right? So double ones always succeed here, but double ones always fail at other times. Double sixes always fail here, but double sixes succeed at other times. So it'd be nice if they just kept consistency across the board. I understand why they flip it, and it makes sense in the context of what they're using it for. But overall, throughout the book, I think flipping back and forth is can be confusing for people like me. All right, so spells. How many pages of spells do we have? I think it's a decent chunk of spell pages here. Yeah, there's a lot of spell pages and a lot of really beautiful art as we go through those. Um, it looks like there are spells up to 69. Nice. 7, 9. Yeah, so like 12 pages of spells. I'm definitely not going to read a lot of those. Um, let's just look at some of them. Animate. Cause inanimate objects to question their place. One object up to the size of a human baby may be caused to hop around and do whatever else the wizard wishes. Interesting unit of measurement. A baby. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, we have a spell called Cockroach. A popular spell that turns troublesome folk into humiliated animals. The target must test their luck or be turned into an insignificant creature of the wizard's choice. Lasts forever. Interesting. Okay. Cone of Air creates a mysterious and specifically shaped cone of air focused on a touched target's head. They may continue to breathe the freshest of air for 12 minutes. That's cool. Um, exchange shape. What looks like a hug is in fact fell wizardry. That's just like my 10th yawn. The wizard bumps into another and exchanges bodies. Lasts until the wizard chooses to end it, but they must be within sight of their own body for this to happen. So, interesting aside that means nothing to anything. I really, really enjoyed the Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles novel. 1 through 3 are really, really good. Number 4, if I remember the counting correctly, is some random body swap bullshit that just seemed incredibly pointless. This reminds me of that. Basically, Lestat gets bumped out of his body by somebody else. Um, it felt very episodic and unnecessary. Um, okay, there's a firebolt spell. Shoot impressive flames from your fingertips, dealing damage to one target within 20 meters. And it has the same kind of damage matrix that a lot of other weapons have. So, a damage roll of 1 actually does 3 damage. A damage roll of 7 plus does 16 damage. I'm still not a fan of the damage matrices. Just not. I'm just not. Um, Flash. No, I don't need to do Flash. Gills. I assume that lets you breathe underwater. Um, Iron Hand. The common man does not appreciate exactly how close flesh and iron are when considering relative to, say, flesh and the smell of hot tea. But some slight convincing. All right, with some slight convincing, the wizard may cause target's flesh to behave as though it had the desirable properties of metal. They get +1 skill and immunity to modestly proportioned fires for 3 minutes. More stunning artwork. Definitely helps set the vibe. Um, Poison. When cast upon a liquid, this spell causes it to become deadly poison. The liquid deals 4 damage if drunk and 1 damage per turn until the target successfully tests their luck. The liquid loses its potency after an hour. Posthumous vitality seems neat. Necromancers, known for their social inadequacy, often find themselves having to make friends. That's funny. This spell requires a fresh, or at least whole, and lubricated corpse. The wizard rolls 2d6 plus their posthumous vitality skill total and consults the following chart. 13 plus accounts for an advanced tick. Nothing happens from 4 to 12. 13 to 14, the vitality is clumsily applied, causing the body to explode messily. A new one must be found. 15 to 16, the creature is animated and lasts for 24 hours before literally falling to pieces. 17 plus, perfect reanimation. The creature lasts until destroyed. Um, so very interesting piece of art, kind of like a demon holding some pink thing, looking at a boat. Um, but it's got a dick and balls hanging off of it, but it's hanging off the butt. So fun art in this book for sure. Read entrails. The wizard can get the answer to one question from the entrails of a living creature. The size and importance of the creature influences the level of knowledge gained. Small common animals are able to offer yes or no answers. Oxen can predict things obtusely. Lamasu may offer explicit and thorough advice. Okay, let's get through the spells. See if there's any cool ones before we stop. Skeletal Council. Speak with dead, basically. Web. Okay, so we're looking at enemies now. Page 70. Enemies. Enemies that characters encounter are not like them. They are simpler machines that produce similar results. Enemy skill is not like character skill. Enemy skill covers everything they lack, including advanced skills and luck. They use the same number to climb a rope as to hit or cast a spell. This is 15. That was 15.1. This is 15.1.2. Enemy spells do not cost stamina. Interesting. Why? Why? Um, Enemies do not spend luck. They don't have a luck score and instead roll versus their skill, which never diminishes. They also may not test their luck to gain an advantage for themselves in combat, such as testing luck to increase damage. Why the stamina disparity? The stamina of enemies tends towards lower numbers in characters. This is to speed battles along to make it somewhat fair on the characters who must spend stamina for their magic. Note that the combat rules and damage have been balanced in such a way that a goblin is a threat no matter how much stamina it has. Initiative is different for enemies. Oh, okay. All right. So we're talking about the stack here. Well, all characters contribute 2 initiative tokens each. Enemies have their own specific totals. These are all the same color and are added to the initiative stack and drawn similarly to the character's initiative tokens. When an enemy token is drawn, the GM may use it to activate and take a turn with an enemy present. There's no limit to the number of times a single enemy may act in a round. Indeed, you could have one enemy perform all actions drawn. This does not represent speed so much as it represents commitment to action while others stall or perform minor tasks. I like initiative and rounds and stuff not being the same 6 seconds across the board. It doesn't make sense. And I like the idea with the way that they do rounds here where it says it does not represent speed, but represents commitment to action. Example, a lizard man and a goblin are fighting the characters, both of which are contributing to the initiative stack. When an enemy initiative token is drawn, the GM may declare that either of them is acting. Okay. Rather than having various types of armor, enemies just have a number. This is treated exactly the same as numbers associated with character armor, represents physical protection, speed, incorporeality, etc. If you have a plan for the enemy's attitude, then go with it. Otherwise, roll to see how they appear when meeting the group. Okay. An interesting graphic here of some type of like witch tick bug thing hauling a pack of junk on its back. Interesting. Now we have a ton of stat blocks. Some great illustrations. Let's just pick out. We've talked about Goblin and all. Let's find Goblin and see exactly what its whole deal is. So there's 1 to 2 entries per page in here for bad guys. Goblins have skill 5, stamina 6, initiative 1, armor 1, and damage as weapon. And their means are 1 through 6: curious, dismissive, preoccupied, gossipy, overly friendly, or paranoid. And then it gives a great description. So that's the entire thing. Is they get these like 5 numbers, and they get the mean MIEN, which is basically just their attitude, and a descriptor. And I like that. That's interesting. Goblins are the vanguard of civilization. The moment a sphere bobs to the surface, the goblins creep out of the nooks and crannies to start expanding their labyrinth. Left to their own devices, they eventually tame and cover every surface and walls and hedges and tunnels and steel and whatever else is in goblin vogue. The more usually they're distracted with an accident they're distracted with an accidentally awakened evil, or recalled by the Goblin King, or cut off from the city of the labyrinth, and turned feral to live in the man cities. A most terrible fate, better to bury their labyrinths and leave. It's actually really chilly here today. I'm gonna throw on a light hoodie. So, interesting monsters, gremlins. Let's look for one that's got a really high stamina. Harpies have a 12. They're immortal creatures of bitterness and spite. Okay, I believe that. Ooh, this one has a special ability. Harpies are natural sorcerers, each knowing read entrails and any other spells you might deem appropriate. Okay. I mean, they're natural sorcerers, but they're basically reading the entrails of their prey. So it's kind of more like an ability than a spell at that point if you only have one. Living Dead has 12 stamina. Ooh, there's a fun one here. What is this? Um, Loathsome Worm. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Loathsome worm that will consume the sun. That feels very Lovecraftian in title. Skill 12, stamina 46, initiative 7, armor 3, damage as gigantic beast. 6 means tormented, writhing, envious, phlegmatic, rancorous, and malevolent. Okay, let's read about the loathsome worm that will consume the sun. Once upon a distant time, the gods banded together to mold the dripping flesh of the monad into all the creatures of the earth. One divine architect, sneaky, lazy, or mad, consistently came up short on their daily quota of flesh-giving shape. At this point, an exceptional storyteller would usually improvise a series of didactic vignettes of gods or animals asking why the god's work was lacking, until finally the god revealed that they were saving scraps to create the loathsome worm. The thief god was usually punished, and their mad, unfinished creature confined to the vein to the earth, since destroying either was beyond the scope of their siblings' combined godly might. A trite story about the permanence of evil, but a popular and partially true tale. Very, very, very interesting. In reality, the loathsome worm is the width of an elephant with great tusks and grinding scales. It is unfinished. Its unfinished infinite body coils back into the depths, and it can surely level the sunlit world were it not confident to the darkness from which it stares. If one listens closely at the threshold of caves, they may hear his whispers and promises. Treasures thrown down into pits and left in cave mouths temporarily silence it. Interesting. That's a really fun, interesting, like Lovecraftian one. Right. I'm gonna take just a 2 minute break. I will be right back, my friends, and we will continue on with Troika before getting to Hunter, our guest. So just give me a moment, please, and I will be right back. All right, and we are back at it. So, um, let's look for the highest stamina creature. Manticore, is in here. It's got a stamina of 18. The loathsome worm has a stamina of 46. I can only imagine that that is um the biggest, baddest creature in here. It does have a special ability. If killed, the stub of the creature's neck can be descended and used as an entry to the primary underworld. The worm reforms in 5,125 years. Interesting. Okay. Manticore is 18. Ogre, Owl, Orc, Parchment Witch has 14. Night Pig. There are witches that don the skin of a pig and walk abroad amongst their sleeping neighbors. thinking engine built in the time of the First Empire, commissioned by the will of the other lords to pilot the golden ships of their cosmic civilization. Each one is unfathomably ancient, but by design or fault, they don't remember more than a lifetime's worth of existence. Interesting. Kind of gives me like a Modon vibe. Tower Wizard has 12 stamina. Again, stamina is not the only indicator of how hard something is, but it's one of them. Miniature HP. Trolls, Zoanthropes. Okay, so moving into, and again, I don't know if I know I mentioned it last week, but for those that haven't listened to last week, one of the things I really do like about this book, for no real reason, it doesn't, it adds aesthetic, but not function to an extent. Each section of the book is color coded, and the pages, when you look at the physical book, are printed different colors. Let's see if I can actually get this to show up on stream, but you can see right there, um, if I cover my face, it goes through regular colored green, yellow, blue, purple, red, orange. I like that touch. It's interesting. I can only imagine it being more costly to have different color pages throughout the book. But yeah, so that is part of this. So ooh, the introductory adventure. This is fun. Let's go ahead and read through what they consider an introductory adventure. It looks like it's about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Oh, there's even a map. It's about 16 pages, and then you get to the character sheets and then more tables. Interesting. So this will be the last part of Troika that we go through. I'm just going to get kind of a brief breakdown of how, again, how they write adventures. This map is beautiful. For those that, again, are listening, on page 109, you get, we'll show both pages. 108 actually shows, interesting. It shows, kind of numbers LG, L1, L2, L3 for lift 1, lift 2, lift 3, lift 4, first floor encounter. And there's this really beautiful kind of like isometric style, Troika style, inked map of what appears to be some type of tower, with various characters, and it's labeled appropriately. And again, Troika does a really, really wonderful job of hyperlinking everything. So you can actually get hyperlinked to each floor section as you're going through this. Let's just page up to the top of this. So the adventure is called the Blancmange and Thistle. The Blancmange and Thistle is an extravagant hotel cast in gold and chrome. Okay, the picture makes more sense now. Chandeliers, ironwork, thick, colorful, mismatched carpets, painting of every style, taste, and era, guests in nooks buried in deep chairs, seemingly built for them, mandrills everywhere, the smell of brass polish and artificial cherry in the air. The characters arrive looking for suitably glamorous accommodation for their first few days in the city of Troika. The concierge informs the party that they are hosting their annual Feast of the Chiliarch on the roof, and as a result, there's unfortunately only one room on the 6th floor left, and that they simply must attend the party, and that it's a positive delight to have you. In a fit of politeness, you all agree to share the remaining room. Take a moment to allow the characters to consider their bedmates and deliver their salutations. The concierge gives one character the small silver room key on a chain, too small for any neck and too large for any wrist. Have the player mark this in their inventory. According to the illuminated glass map of the hotel, standing prominently in the foyer, you have 2 choices in your ascent. Hey, good morning, L2. How is it going? I'm just wrapping up, going over Troika. The back of Troika has an introductory adventure, which seems interesting. According to the illuminated glass map of the hotel standing prominently in the foyer, you have two choices in your ascent, being the lift or the stairs. Canny player might consider descending through the roof, but anyone caught climbing the facade or rudely flying directly into the party is rebuffed by 2d6 mandrill guards nesting in the crevices. At every encounter, the party has the option of continuing via the stairway or the lift. Interesting, and they give some stats for the mandrill guards. Basically, 5 skill, 10 stamina, initiative 2. They use bite and claws. They have small swords and tiny crossbows. It goes a little drowsy but good. L2, I feel exactly the same. Um, they give some breakdowns of how can I insert the Blancmange Thistle into my game. It can be placed anywhere where there's a metropolitan area. The place is dangerous. What if someone dies? Have them create a new character and introduce them at the next floor. Hello, new friend. I don't know what's going on. None of us do. Write it out and see what happens. You can apply meaning and history to everything in your next session in light of the events of the first. Encourage the players to connect the dots for you. Make it up as you go. It's completely reasonable. Um, where's the bar? Through a door to the side of the front desk, labeled with a color-shifting neon garlic bulb, stairs lead to a basement where you may buy a dizzying variety of exotic pickled vegetables. The only alcohol they sell is a clear herbal liqueur served in snifter glasses. The barman is ancient and deaf, but the selection is so limited he can usually guess right. The music sounds like several lions roaring at the bottom of a well, while someone plays the tuba energetically. The few guests here are gathering up their fireworks and preparing to leave for whichever feast of the Chiliarch they're attending. Okay, so the adventure is basically it's a hotel. Yeah, it's a hotel with a party going on top, and each floor of the hotel is a different encounter. Very, very interesting. They break it down really, really well. A lot of questions, a lot of NPCs. Again, hyperlinked if the creatures have spells and things like that. I'm not going to read through the entire thing. Maybe we'll run this. This seems like a very fun, interesting adventure to run, in fact. So that, for the most part, my friends, is Troika. Um, Okay, character sheet is interesting. One of the things that I think is incredible. First of all, look at the number of advanced skills and spells. Oh, and spells. Okay. Um, the sheet does make some of the very very marginally slightly complicated bits a little bit easier. You write name your background. You write some special stuff that you have. But you have a line for your advanced skills or spells. You have a box for rank, a box for skill, and a box for total, which I assume means your skill, advanced skill, and then the total for that. You have marks for your skill, stamina, and luck totals, including an area for spent and damage taken. Um, One of the things that I was not a big fan of on this is the damage matrices. But on the character sheet, there is a place where you can fill in your matrix. We talked about this before. When you roll a 3, for example, with a sword for your damage, you don't do 3 damage. You go to the book. I will. You guys can see the character sheet while I look at the physical book. You go to the front cover here for melee weapons, and if you roll a 3 for sword, you do 6 damage. I mean, I understand to a point why there are damage matrices. I don't like it though. I'm gonna be completely honest. I really am not a fan of it. But at least on the character sheet, there's no referencing a page. You don't have to give someone everything. If they get a sword, they can write down the matrix on here. There are boxes for each roll on the dice, where you can put in the total damage written down. Again, inventory is an interesting concept here. You only have 12 inventory slots, period. And you have to actually roll to pull something out of your pack that you're not holding. So you're supposed to list your inventory as if you're packing a bag where the most important things are on top. So if you're an archer, your arrows should probably be slot number 1. Wearing money and provisions. And then at the very back, there are some oops tables. I know we talked about oops tables before. I think oops tables is like when spells go wrong and things like that. Um, let's roll. Is it a full D66 here? Yeah, okay. So again, let's talk about um the game in general. It's all, the only dice you need for Troika is a D6. You could have two D6s, you could have three D6s, that's nice, but if it says D66, it does not mean roll a D66. It means roll a D6 and then another D6 and put them together. So if you were going to roll D66, you would just roll 2D6. So looking at this list of oopses, let's roll a couple, see what we get. I will roll on a dice roller off to the side here, and I got a 4 and a 4, so number 44. What the oops is, a pool of color opens up under the wizard, sucking them and any other unlucky nearby souls into its depths. They will be whisked off to a random sphere of existence. That sucks. Basically, your character is gone. Interesting. Interesting. Let's roll again. We got a 53. The wizard flies off in a random direction at great speed, landing 50 meters away or falling back down to the earth as it may be. So it's kind of like a wild magic table is what it feels like. Some aren't too bad, some super suck. Last one, 47. There is no 47. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a 4 and a 3, which makes 7, and I somehow put 47 together from that. 43. How did I get a 44 and a 43? All vegetation within a mile withers and dies. Dang, some of these are good, some are terrible. So that, my friends, is the end of Troika. I'm gonna go ahead and go over to this is where I have my yes, this is where I have my scores listed. Let's do this. So, I will actually go through each one of the different scores and give a score right now because I didn't write them previously. So I would say, looking at art and style, um, so so the book is it's the art is interesting. It's crazy. It's wacky. Um, look, trying to decide on some of these things. Do I be objective or do I be subjective, right? So, like, for example, Merkborg got a perfect 5 easy for art and style. It's just stunning. Is the art great? Yes. Is it my style? Not quite. Um, but it's consistent. You know, a lot of the background drawings are these kind of like ink drawings, ink style, black, white, yellow, very little other colors. Some other cool big size pictures in it, but very much like still in the book, right? Not necessarily super graphically designed. Nothing's like crazy. There's a lot of good art. I'm gonna go ahead and give art and style a 4. 4 for art and style. Layout and function. I can't get over a couple of things with this in a good way. The book is laid out incredibly well. So when you read through it, everything is numbered, and then everything within that is also numbered. So if you go to actions, it's number 6 on page 44. And then within actions, you know, it's not just 6 is actions, 6.1 is hit someone, 6.2 is shoot someone. So every single paragraph and every single added piece is given a very specific number or sub number. And I like that. So you can actually say to people, you know, if you go to, you know, um, section 7.9, you can easily find the drowning rules. And the other thing that's beautiful about that is in the book, I'm sorry, in the PDF, the entire thing is completely hyperlinked, and it does one of my favorite things. I'm gonna go back to the RPG review page for a second. This does one of my favorite things ever in a PDF, and I can't think of another PDF that does this. And I absolutely am obsessed with it. I love it. Let's just scroll up through the pages a little bit and we'll look at this. So, if you go to the index, right in the beginning, the entire index is obviously going to be hyperlinked, right? So let's go to actions. We were just talking about those. And now when you look at the actions page, there is the page on the left and the page on the right, even page and odd page, right? If you look at the top right where it says it'll give you what section you're in. So number 6 actions is in the rules section of the book, which is kind of like light bluish color. And if you click the rules, it takes you to the beginning of the rules section. Okay, so if you're scrolling through the rules and you want to go back to the beginning, on every page, you just click the header on the top right page. It takes you back to the beginning of that section. My favorite bit, though, my absolute favorite bit, is the top left on every page. The header of that page just says Troika, but when you click it, it takes you back to the table of contents. Why don't more books do that? It's great that I can click on section 11 and go to getting better, but then if I want to go to section 3, I either have to scroll to section 3 or I have to scroll all the way back to page 1 and then hit section 3, as opposed to just clicking, boom, Troika, takes me right back to the table of contents. I can click on section 3. If I don't want to be there, I click on Troika, takes me right back to the table of contents. To me, it's fucking genius. It is extremely well done. So what I'm going to do is here's the correct window. For layout and function, I'm actually going to go ahead and give this a oops, nope, I clicked the wrong one. This is a 4. For layout and function, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 5. Merkborg got a 4 on that because some of the art can kind of convolute some of the pages a little bit. But this actually scored higher than Merkborg as far as that. Rule set and crunch. So one of the things we talked about with Troika is that it is a rule set, not a setting. It does have an adventure. It does have examples of backgrounds, items, artifacts, people, all sorts of things. Monsters, various things you can find. And the way they describe it as basically this is the vibe of various spheres across the universe. We've collected pieces from it, build your own. As a rule set, which is what this actually is, I like a lot of it and I don't like some of it. Um, for example, I really enjoy the roll over and roll against aspect of the game. I think that's incredibly clever. I like it a lot. I really like I really like the I'm looking at the rules right now. I like that you only get better with things that you can learn, not things that you have. So like your skill, your stamina, your luck, all those things stay the same forever. You can only learn new skills and get better at your skills. I enjoy that. Things that I'm like, the stack, the way that initiative is done is interesting, but I can see it kind of getting old fast. It feels almost a tiny bit gimmicky. The whole fact that everyone has dice that for those people that don't really care about the speed in which combat happens, I think it's fine. I think it's a tiny bit gimmicky, and I can feel that it might get a little bit redundant having to keep track of all of those tokens after every combat, dealing them back out, putting them back away, all of those kind of things. I can feel that that might be, but it's fine. I think it's interesting enough. But again, I can feel long term that it could be a little gimmicky. One of the things I do not like, however much I understand it, is the weapon matrices, where you roll a damage dice and then there's a damage associated with that number. I get it. I'd like that you only need literally one dice to play the game, but I think the whole concept of matrices clearly came about because you only have a d6. So how do you do 20, 30, 40 different weapons when all you can roll is a d6? You create a matrix. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of having to go to a chart to figure out my damage. So that's I'm gonna deck some points for that. Um, I feel like there was something else I wasn't a super huge fan of. Um, Can't remember it right off the top of my head. I'll get to it. I do like the advanced skills. I like the way that um monsters are done. I like the way that casting a spell costs stamina, which is your health, which is really interesting. I think the damage matrices are the things that bug me the most. Um and I'm not a super huge fan of the stack. I think it's fine, it's interesting, but again, I think it could get old. I'm gonna go ahead. As a system, though, it's really, 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 really well done, beginning to end. I'm gonna go ahead and give rule set and crunch a 4 as well. This is a really good, fun, interesting game. So, I mean, I feel like I'm being too nice early on with these ratings. Merkborg basically got it 29, I think. This one will be less than that. Um, so we'll see how it comes out. So we'll give a 4 for that. Originality. I do think that is it's a pretty original game. It's weird, it's wacky, it's science fantasy. It does have a little bit of a Planescape vibe to it. The system is kind of roll over versus roll under versus roll again switch does exist in other systems, but I don't think other systems are quite built like this. It is weird, it is interesting, it does have some really interesting parts that I like. I'm going to go ahead and give originality a 4 as well. um Price, I think price is where it's going to get dinged a bit. Versus something like Merkborg, the book was relatively inexpensive. And then they create a lot of third-party content. There's a ton of third-party content for for this, don't get me wrong. But if you want third-party content from Merkborg, you can literally just go to the website and download a ton of free content. If you go to the Troika website, if you want to get let's see. First of all, it's from the UK. So if you're in Europe, great for you. If you're not, um, shipping right now is absolutely terrible. And if you want to get the Troika like Numinous edition kit, like the whole starter bundle, it's on sale right now, which is really, really nice. Um, but so it's 30% off, but it's normally 87 pounds. 87 pounds to USD. Um, 87 pounds to USD is 108, it's $120 for the book and for 3 adventures. The book by itself is 22 pounds. And this, don't forget, this is not with shipping, which from the UK is expensive as well. 22 pounds to US dollars. It's $30 for the book, which is reasonable, plus shipping, um, which is probably going to run you like $10 to $15. So in order to get the book in your hands by itself, no adventures, no nothing, it's about $45, and you get one starter adventure. The adventure books themselves also run almost as much as the book, and I do have the other adventures. They're not as big as the book, and it's mostly just background. So to charge 20 pounds for what amounts to some backgrounds and items, a little bit expensive. I'm gonna go ahead and ding. How big is each adventure? Let's see. Let's look at Acid Death Fantasy. So there are three main adventures that come with it. There is let's go back to the RPG review page for a second. There are three main adventures that come with it. It's Acid Death Fantasy, Fronds of Benevolence. Oh, Slow Slay to Plankton Downs is a new adventure they put out. And Very Pretty Paleozoic Pals, Permian Nations. So, Fronds of Benevolence, I think, is a pretty thickish book. Very Pretty, excuse me, Paleozoic Pals is a thinner book. Acid Death Fantasy is right in the middle. I don't have it downloaded. It's interesting. I'll go back to the just padding page. There's a lot of green on it. That's why my green screen is getting rid of it. But the entire thing is 45 pages. No, yeah, it's only 45 pages long. It is, like I said, it's mostly just PC backgrounds and enemies. That's all there is to it. I don't even see... There's an intro to the setting, and that's it. So there's an introductory adventure in the Troika book, but when you get the settings, you're basically making up your own story. Why is my chat box on this page so small? Sorry, give me 1 second. You're basically getting nothing but backgrounds and bad guys. And it's $20. It's £20 for Acid Death Fantasy and 25 for Pretty Paleozoic Pals. So unless those other ones actually come with adventures in the book, you're literally just getting a list of character backgrounds and enemies for what amounts to basically $30. I mean, it's beautiful. It's hardback. That's great. But if yeah, sounds like it's mainly guidebooks and characters and the party romps through it. Yeah, yeah, and that's fine if that's what you like, but the cost is kind of prohibitive. To basically just get like a guide with no actual adventure. I mean, there's even a introductory adventure in the original book. So I can't imagine they wouldn't have given like at least an encounter or something, but they don't. At least in Acid Death Fantasy. So I'm kind of disappointed by it. The art's beautiful, but you basically just get an introduction to the setting, and that's about it. Let me just make sure I'm not talking out my ass. Yeah, and then there's like a Sultan generator. There is a stuff to do section on the last page, which is basically some adventure seeds, but no adventure. So I would think for the cost of this, especially US dollars to pounds, again, it's kind of cost prohibitive. So when we go back to the to this, I'm gonna set the price. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's not the best either. Good morning, Jedi Mama. How are you doing? I'm Caps for no reason. Make sure you go check out the Mother of Jedi here on Twitch. Wonderful person. And DM for Descent into Avernus. So looking at price, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 3. The original book by itself isn't too bad, but yeah. So what is our total here? 4, 4, and 4 is 12, 13, 14, 15. So the total score is going to be a 20, out of a possible 25. Green Knight says, yeah, it's pricey. If they're from the UK, then I see why they overprice it. It often is like that with most of the stuff in the UK. It gets priced with the same number as a US price. They don't exchange price rates well. Ah, interesting. So they basically say like $20 here is $20 there, but right now a dollar is worth like 80 cents in the UK. Hello, the father of cats. Yeah, I mean, I might have been a little bit generous with some of the stuff. But it is a very cool, very interesting system. My only I don't have one of the things I took off here as far as a score. Maybe it'll give like a bonus score to this, or maybe I'll add stuff later to it. Is my personal vibe. The likelihood that I'll play this game as written, right? Merkborg, 10 out of 5. 100 out of 10. It literally speaks directly to my soul. It is a perfect game. I love it. I love fucking death metal. I love the way that they describe it. I love the art in it. Like it's if I could make a game that was my brain, that's what it would be. Um Troika, on the other hand, it's really interesting. It's really it seems fun, but I don't know many people that would describe me as like into like weird, wacky science fantasy. It's not super my vibe. It could be fun. It could be interesting. Um, but the starter adventure being a wacky party in a hotel and you have to get to the top floor. Um, and what is some of the other? I know I'm kind of being like with some of the stuff here. Um, Trans-dimensional confusion and owls in the stairwell. It's a little bit goofy for me. It's a little bit goofy, is what I find. And for those that really want that kind of weird, like I said, kind of like almost Douglas Adams style wackiness, I can imagine this being super, super, super fun. I would probably take this rule set and do something fucking dark and brutal with it. That's what I would do with it because that's me. Um, the rule set seems really interesting. And because there are an endless number of crystal spheres in the humpback sky, I can imagine a sphere that's, I don't know, hell. Baron Munchausen vibes. Hardcore. Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So, if I were going to give this a personal, objective vibe score for me, as written, 2. I would say 2. I would say, as written, I would be unlikely to decide to play this game as written. And if I were to do anything with the ones that they wrote, I would do Acid Death Fantasy. I cannot imagine myself playing. Um, let's look at a very pretty Paleozoic pals. Before even the dinosaurs walked the land, fabulous Dimetrodons defined wetland fashion. Behorned Xenocanthus sharks definitely negotiated sacred treaties. Nautiloids and ammonites plumbed the deepest of philosophical depths. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I can't imagine playing goofy dinosaurs. Yes, the father of cats. That is very true. It is not sad boy enough. I need more edge lord in my life. This doesn't tickle that itch for me. Um, Again, objectively, great rule system, fun, interesting. Subjectively, just for me, I would have to tweak it in order to run it. So, that, my friends, is the second part of Troika. So what I'm gonna do right now is take just a smidge of a minute or two break and get our guest in for the week. I'm going to switch up the windows here, probably live, so until I eventually one day get Zoom where I want it to be, and maybe my camera to stop doing this weird in and out focus thing. But I'll be back in just a minute or two to speak with my guest. And again, it is my buddy Hunter, one of my best friends in the world. Someone I talk to about RPGs pretty much more than just about anybody else. Someone who I've tried to build RPGs with, who I've played games with. Super great guy. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of him and the podcast towards the end of our discussion. So give me just a moment. I will be back shortly, and we will continue with the weekly scroll. Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Hello again. This is Hi. You are who? Who are you?
I'm Hunter. I've been really good friends with Ryan for years now. I mean, it's probably about 4 years now. How old am
No, I
I?
think it's like
Jesus.
it's like 6 years.
Really? I have no idea, honestly. I guess I've been in Texas for 4 years. So yeah, I guess it's been longer than that.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
a terrible.
Ryan and I are good buddies, and we've played some tabletop games together, and we've worked on a ton of lore that both of us have used and just totally not at all, like hours of
Yep.
lore
Yep.
together. And yeah, I live in Dallas, Texas, and I play tabletop games in Dallas, Texas. And yeah, I still play with several groups right now. But we talk a lot of game theory, and we are interested in a lot of games. And yeah, I'm stoked to be on the show.
Yeah. Um bless fuck you, Steph.
Yeah,
Um
it's okay. He's okay. I know he's like this broody, like almost edge lord that just really loves like super goth stuff, but it's endearing.
you're literally like the same as me, but you smile more. Like
That's
that's
not true. I'm
about
like Troika, I'm like very stoked for. I like that it's so whimsical. I like that it's a little over the top. And I really enjoyed Planescape. Like I know it was like way too in depth and like had way too much lore and like its own jargon and stuff, but I really did enjoy it. Um so I'm stoked for it. Hey, Sursa. Oh, cool. Sursa Victory's here. Hey, man. I love Victory Basic. I've had a really good time reading it. So
yeah. And we'll be talking about that at some point soon too. So yeah, so as he said, basically I met Hunter through my wife. Kind of. I met Hunter through a friend, and then I also met my wife because of that friend. Um, but I think I remember meeting you for the very first time and pretty much being like, "Oh hey, so we're best friends, right?" And you were like, "Fuck yeah, we
yeah,
are." And
yeah.
yeah, I think we talked for like 30 seconds. And that's what it was. And like 6 years later, here we are. I think yeah. Oh, I don't have the wrong channel for the wifey command stuff, but yes, that would be hey k x x hey k x x. Yeah, not a none of the commands here, and you can't make any. So yeah, so I met you. Got to be about 6 years ago. We went to a mutual friend's house
we
before we went
played
out
5e.
in a what's that?
We played 5e. It was like the third time I'd played 5e because we had kept playing 3.5 for like quite a while after 5 came
Oh,
out.
mm-hmm.
Um, because we just got in the habit of playing 3.5.
Right. I
Yeah, it
know
was okay.
that I tried to play a Drow campaign. I really wanted to play it real bad and didn't really think about my players at the time. And it was you, some people we don't talk about anymore,
Oh yeah,
and
I forgot about this. That was a
yeah,
brilliant campaign idea. I am
it
so
was a
sorry. I didn't mean
brilliant
to interrupt you.
campaign
Keep going. I
idea.
forgot about it totally though.
No, it was a brilliant campaign idea, and like one or two people really invested. The problem is Drow are great, but most people that only read like the player's handbook don't understand how cool Drow are. So I did a campaign where players were gonna be basically it was like a precursor to Dark Kingdoms to an extent. It was the first time I wanted to try to run an evil
Very
campaign,
true.
and
Yeah.
all the characters would be evil, but none of them had read any of the Drow books. Maybe you did. At least the first three Drist books, so they had no concept of the way Drow society worked. And I tried to explain it. I have a full binder of information on how to play Drow characters, all that other stuff. But then, especially knowing my wife now, I appreciate the fact that she tried. I appreciate the fact that she tried, and it was solely just because we were trying to date. Um, and I even bought her
That's such a
dice that
cool
she has
idea.
since lost.
Yeah.
But it was a great campaign that failed miserably and fantastically. And the only real lingering thing from that is Kaylee basically continuously saying, I was hooking up with the DM at the time, but I still like got my leg broken or something because she couldn't show up to one session, so there was a cave in, and in order to have her like kind of not present, I had it like fall down on her and knock her
Yeah, so
out
she
and
was
break her
unconscious.
leg. She was so butthurt for no reason and never played again, so it didn't matter.
Sorry,
But that's the first
are you saying
tabletop.
Kaylee was butthurt for no reason?
I
That's
know
really
it's
out of
really hard
character.
to it's really hard to imagine, but she was upset. I think that was the first time we ever played a tabletop game together because I think the game we played with our other person, I don't
Yeah,
was that
that other
before or
person.
after?
I think that was actually before.
Maybe it
I
was
think that was my
before.
first time
Yeah.
playing at your table. It was great. I mean, I read the binder, and I haven't read any draw books, but you know what? YouTube has like hours of
Yeah.
people talking
Yeah.
about drow lore, and it's really interesting. I mean, Minzer Branson's like the coolest city that
Oh.
Wizards has
Oh.
ever created at any point in time. Oh, here we go. You gonna go grab a map of it?
Well, I have a
Nerd,
map of it.
man.
Even better is one of my favorite D&D books ever created. It is the actual Minzel
Oh,
Baranzan
cool.
City of Intrigue like setting
Is
book.
that four?
Stop.
Is that from four?
Yeah, it's a 4E.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And it does in fact come with a map of Minzel Baranzan in the back. I have
Nice.
another one that
Such a cool city. I
yeah,
really like
it's
the just.
it's
I
it's
mean,
great.
the matriarchal structure, especially because when Minzo Brandon was like introduced, like that idea wasn't so because it's very a very popular idea now. I don't know if there's anything wrong with it, but like it was like pretty unique at the time. And then just like the political interplay of the houses of the Drow and how it's like this very non-stable environment, and the houses move up and down like in
Mm.
a very regular like schedule, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so good. And what's great about this book is it's literally like a guide to running like drow campaigns and even running evil drow characters. They give you whole RP chapters, history, like everything you need to know to run it. Great book, one of my favorite books ever put out by D&D. The art is absolutely stunning. Like when you look at the cover, it's so cool. Everything within it is
wait. I'm so
great.
sorry. Are you saying that Guild of Ravnica is not your favorite D&D book?
No, no, I actually despise it. I
I
really actually
know.
do. I think pretty much almost all of the magic stuff can fuck right off. Thank
It's funny
goodness
because
they stopped with
I'm like a
that.
huge Magic the Gathering fan. Like I think
Yeah,
that they're like really indexing too far towards like bringing these two properties together.
yeah,
I
oh
liked it a
yeah,
little bit at first, and I think that we're just like way too far.
yeah.
But I like oh I really like that. But I just got done listening to a bunch of the audiobooks, including their more recent ones like War of the Sparks, which all takes place in Ravnica. Um, but sorry, my AC's out right now actually, so I think the AC guy might be on the way. So I might have to open the door for a cat here pretty soon, but I'm not going anywhere.
Cool.
I'm
All
in
right.
Texas,
Um,
so
but yeah, bringing it up, Magic the Gathering can stay cards as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really
hey man,
glad that Strixhaven, at least for now, is the last Magic the Gathering property they're gonna stuff into D&D.
God, it's so
Um,
bad. It's so that one's so bad. That one's like, hey, you know how you liked Harry Potter? What if we just did it worse? You know, what if we just made it less fun? You
What if we
know?
just did it worse? And then not only made it Magic the Gathering, but also made it D&D.
Yeah, the card
Yay!
stuff's bad too
Wizards
because I
aren't
have.
OP already. Let's add a bunch of new subclasses for
Yeah,
you. Good times. Um anyway, so yeah, we actually did play another campaign, which was a good time. Um and then there was nothing like even when I was starting to try to do the Drow campaign, it was pretty much like well, no one has any other ideas. I literally have this campaign pre-built already. And I actually got to run it with another group a little bit too. L2 says, there are drow in my homebrew, but the characters are far from the cave systems in the mountains. Gonna need a hand figuring out flavoring for their lore. Listen, it's not that I've read 22 Driss novels or anything. It's not even that I read at least 22 Driss novels so I could specifically write my campaign to this specific year and to use specific NPCs within that, or anything. So I know a little bit about drow lore. So if you want to talk about that stuff at all, you know where to find me. But my actually a quick aside, my favorite drow books because Drist is one of the worst characters in fiction. I
oh, he's
think he's
Superman.
terrible.
He's
He's
Superman.
terrible. He's Superman. For the exact same reasons I hate Superman, I hate Drist.
You hate
He's
Superman.
flat. He's flat. He will never lose. He will never challenge his morals in any way, shape, or form. He's uninteresting and flat and terrible. He will always be the same every book, no matter what. Superman will always be the same, no matter what. The only time Superman was ever interesting was in Injustice. That's it. So the best Drow books are the books that don't even have Drist in them at all. War of the Spider Queen, amazing, amazing. Jedi Mama, Superman sucks. Superman sucks because let's be honest, if you've read the Injustice comics, any person with that much power, that's what they would do. That's what
Yeah,
I would do.
absolutely. No,
I
I
would do
super
that
agree.
with a fraction of that power. I don't
You're
know.
the easiest, the most easily corruptible people or person in this fucking in this room
It's
right
not.
now, man.
It's not. I'm not already corruptible. I'm corrupted. Listen, if I had a shade of power, if I could cast one D&D spell, evil, instantly, instantly
I
evil. I
forget.
know this about myself very well.
Are you on the Lost or Loth side of it? You know what I mean? Because people pronounce
Um.
Lost. Well, I say Lost, or
Oh,
is
it's
it
Loth.
Loth?
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
like Loth. It's always been Loth to me. It'll
Loth.
always be Loth to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No. I
Little
still want to
bread
get a Loth
Loth.
tattoo. I love Loth so much. But War
Yeah.
of the Spider Queen is like a 6 book series. It's amazing. It has nothing to do with Drist fucking Dillard, and they're great Drow books. Anyway, that is the first time we played tabletop role playing games together. It did not go well. I think we played maybe like 2 sessions, and then it
Yeah,
never
and
did
then
again.
you played the opening adventure for one of mine before I moved actually to Texas.
Yes. Oh, the blood
Yeah,
orgy.
yeah, that one was fucking
Yeah.
dark, dude.
The blood orgy. Yeah, that
I'm gonna be
was.
honest. I let that one take a really natural progression. I did not mean for it to get that dark, but it was really like it was right, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, that's the
who
way it
doesn't love
went.
good blood
So
orgy?
yeah, I
Let's be
mean, who
real
doesn't love
here.
fucking corpse monsters, you know?
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
I clearly do. That's right up. That's
Yeah.
right where I want to be. Let's throw some of those in
Oh,
Troika and I'll run it all day.
God.
So have we have not played. We've talked a lot, but I don't think since your opening adventure before you moved, I don't think we've played a game together.
No, we did the roll 20 game for a few episodes. The problem is that you and I always play with a couple of the people who bail because we try to recruit our old friend group.
Right, 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 right. Are you
And
talking
they're
about
so
when we
busy.
played? Are you talking about when we played? Were you in the game with Sam?
Yes, I was in the game with Sam.
Oh, like
Um,
the dungeon in a box adventure. We played like 2 or 3 sessions of
yeah, it was
that.
Dungeon in the Box.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's
And then
true.
we tried to set up one of the Cobalt Press ones, which sucks.
Yep.
I built like a really great character, and then the other two people were trying to get Bob in for it. Like I think they just kept being like, "Yeah, we'll do it." It's just like, just build your fucking character, man. Like,
That's all you got to do, and we didn't. So,
yeah, except me.
um, yeah, but we can announce it right now. This will be the first time you hear about it. We are going to be playing. Let me go behind. Let me disappear from reality once again.
Do I need a drum roll?
Sure. I mean, if you want. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That I like that really hyped me up for the drum roll. We will be playing Victory Basic. This is and if Circe is here, he can tell me when I'm completely wrong. But it is basically it's very similar and built on a similar system to Dungeon World, which is powered by the Apocalypse D&D basically. So it's a 2d6 D&D that Circe put out, and it is absolutely stunning. It's a white box. Definitely gives you the old school D&D vibes.
It's
It
so
comes
good. Like
with
visually, it's so satisfying. Like
it's
I don't know
so
what it is. Like
satisfying.
it's got that very old school layout and but done really
Yeah.
well and very nice. I've been looking through it again. So
Comes with some dice. We got a couple of pencils in here. Um, we got some really fun. I love the fight on the call to adventure page. What you now possess is a holiday craft project that got way out of hand. Like the original Dungeons and Dragons box set on which it is based, Victory Basic is a rough around the edges, marginally edited amateur project. However, I hope you find it a fun nostalgia trip and an interesting adaptation of the Dungeon World system. Remember, Victory Basic is not to be sold or made available online. You're one of a handful of people with a copy of the game. Feel free to brag. That's right, bitches. You can't get this. It's mine. We get a whole fat stack of character sheets. And then the game itself is broken into 3 books: Mortals and Magic, Monsters and Treasure, and Underworld Adventures. So I will be prepping this live on stream, and we will be going hard score. I don't even know
Hard
what I was
score.
trying to say there. Hard score. Hardcore old school. And I will be rolling up as much as I can possibly roll up. And we will be having 3 players because there are 3 classes within the game. We still have to talk about classes, so think about what you want. There's fighter, cleric, and wizard. And those 3 players, one is going to be this guy right here. The other 2 are going to be our friend Ginger with Souls, um, and Horrible Tomato or Moose are the 3 players that will be playing in Victory Basic. I'm very excited for it. Over on my private channel, Melee After Dark, I will be starting to do some prep. Like I said, I will prep as much as I can just by rolling as much as I possibly can, and I might even leave some of the rolls for our 0 session that I'll have the players roll
Nice.
not knowing what it's for, and use those rolls to help finish out building the adventure. Um, and that the first session of that, the 0 session of that, will actually be on Thursday, October 21st. So not only do you have Hunter here now, you will have Hunter on October 21st with myself, Ginger, and Moose
Big stoked.
doing Victory Basic. I'm very, very excited for it. I expect it to run about 3 sessions, the first 3 weeks of November. We'll see what happens from there. Jason is already working diligently on the layout, and I gotta tell you, it's stunning, sir. So when you see this, you are going to freak out. It's beautiful, and it's something that I will definitely use in the future because I cannot imagine that this will be the only time we play Victory Basic. So that is the announcement now for the next stream on the Adventure Archive.
Crawl through some
Um,
dungeons, y'all.
yeah,
Slay some
hardcore
monsters.
dungeon crawl. Very excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah,
Actually, I'm
so
very stoked.
that's Victory Basic. I've been wanting to run it forever. As soon as I got the box in the mail from Sursa and finally get a chance to do it, and we're gonna have some really great fun players that I think are gonna have. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. We'll see how it goes. But it's definitely gonna be a really really good time, and I'm excited for it. So more about other tabletop games. So that this will be the first game we play together. Gosh, and it's got to be in at least like 2 years now,
It's probably
probably.
been, yeah, probably about 2 years. Yeah.
Probably 2 years, which is crazy. The amount of tabletop games we've actually talked about versus the amount of tabletop games we've actually got to play together is crazy. It's crazy
Yeah,
small.
it is funny. I mean, I do call you very regularly still. I'm just like, hey,
Well,
I'm looking at this game.
once every
I'm
six
doing this
months
thing.
now.
I
Yeah,
mean, hey, listen, it's been more recently. But I mean, our
but
phone calls do last like 2 hours. So I
well,
mean, like
that's a
really,
difference. Yeah,
if you
yeah,
average it out, it really
yeah,
is. We do talk a lot. It's just all at
yeah.
once.
We've definitely had like 4 or 5 hour talks about tabletop games before.
Yeah.
So, and we individually have with each other, have built multiple worlds together.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
we've definitely. I know I've talked to you about a lot of stuff in like the Dark Kingdoms, especially when I was originally building it up and talking about evil characters. I know that when you're running games, we've talked a lot about character ideas, stuff that the characters do, adventure ideas and stuff too. So we've kind of, even if we haven't played a ton together, we've I would say consulted each other pretty much. I
Yeah.
can't
Oh,
think of
yeah.
anyone I've talked to
Absolutely.
more than you.
You're like my
Yeah,
go-to consultant for both mechanics and lore stuff. I mean, even
yeah.
if we don't do exactly what everyone says, like it is good counsel. So
Yeah, well, that I mean, it's nice to have someone to bounce things off of, and even if it's just
yeah,
like, cool, I appreciate your opinion. I'm not going to do it, but that's a good one. I'll keep it in mind.
yeah.
Um,
I've tried to bounce stuff off my girlfriend. She's just like, that sounds great. I'm just like, that's not helpful. Yeah.
I try to bounce stuff off Kaylee, and she just gets a blank look and then yells at me.
Same as Finn.
So yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
L2 says a very adult problem, easier to chat about it than organize the game with friends. It's very true. That's very, very
God.
true. One
Yeah.
of the reasons I started our local meetup, which evolved into the Adventure Archive, was that. And in our meetup, we were at well over 300 members doing like, gosh, like 8 to 10 different events a month on top of Adventure League every weekend plus monthly get-togethers. It was peak. It was good times. And then the pandemic. What are you gonna do? Um,
Yeah. No kidding.
so Hunter, everyone hears me. rant fucking all the time. Um,
Right.
uh,
Same.
we I started with fifth edition. So I didn't start playing tabletop games until 2014, and then I really quickly realized that every book I read as a kid was just Tor fantasy. I read everything from Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, and everything, and then was like, shit, I know all this stuff. What tabletop game did you start with?
I started with 3.5, but I started probably in like the same year. I was just playing with a group that had grown up playing 3.5, and so that's what they introduced me to, and that's what I started playing. And I played um, that for probably like, I mean, a year or two, and then it's actually probably, time's so hard to measure. 2015 maybe. Yeah, it was whenever I was in California. All that time to me is imaginary. But yeah, I started playing 3.5 and I liked it, and then I got into 5 and I liked it not quite as much, but I still liked it, and it was easy to teach people. And then I still play D&D with a couple groups that I hang out with that I'm not running. But pretty much any group that I run now, we don't really play D&D. I've kind of moved on to other systems that kind of accomplish, and you and I have talked about this, that kind of accomplish what I want to do in different ways, or kind of have more like more streamlined mechanics, or just less mechanics in general. Yeah, so I still play very regularly. I'm still looking at Kickstarter. I'm very much invested in a lot of the stuff done by Abaddon right now, which is Tom Parkinson Morgan, who does Kill 6 Billion Demons, which you can read for free online. I have now played at least a little bit of all 3 of his tabletop games, and they're all pretty good. So
Yeah, so we will be discussing those on stream. Those will be interesting. I have not. I know
yeah,
you've sent me some of them. So this is literally the perfect time to read through them and go over them. So we will
yeah,
be doing that. And just like you, just like we've been talking about, same as I've been talking to Jason a bunch. We're just moving away from 5e. I feel like a lot of people, at least a lot of people that I talk to about gaming are kind of moving away from 5e. Not even that 5e is necessarily bad. For me
no, it's not
specifically,
that.
it's because WotC is fucking it up. And is just doing some really disappointing things. Um,
So I have a
and
question for you, actually.
what's up?
Are you excited or interested at all in their whatever the update is coming out? Because it's not gonna be like, it's not gonna be 5.5. I don't know how they're gonna brand it, but
Okay,
are you
so
interested in
so
that?
so quick tabletop news for people that don't know a lot of the stuff that happened recently, and then my little rant about it because it's me. Basically the plans kind of out to 2024 are to continuously slowly tweak the rules until 2024. So we got Tasha's, which is basically 5.1. It was
Very
a
true.
redo of rules and a bunch of spells. In January, we're going to get Monsters of the Multiverse, another Morton Kanan book. I don't know why
Right.
he gets 2. There's plenty of other people. Um, and no spoilers, there's another really great character that has been used in some recent adventures that I think would be great for a new book. But I think the reason they're doing another Morning Kanan for is because the new book is basically just some new, but a lot of updated stat blocks, is from what I've heard. They've released some of the content, and they're redoing most of the monster stat blocks, and you're actually going to get a whole new starter kit at some point next year with new rules, new monster stat blocks, new everything. So now we're going to get into like 5.2, 5.3, where not only do you have a bunch of new rules from Tasha's, you have a bunch of new spells from Tasha's, you're now going to get a bunch of new stat blocks for monsters that already exist. And just like Tasha's, I think they're going to basically say, use whichever parts you want. Which is
I
my
love
big
that.
which
Yeah,
is
I
my
really
big
don't.
problem with 5e right now. It's my big I had this thing saved on my phone, and I complained about it in something else. But basically there is this let me see if I can actually find it, because they posted, and it was a different thing. It wasn't about 5e specifically. It was about like some new realms or something for Witchlight. Um, and but underneath it, they posted something, and I was like, this encapsulates fifth edition right now. It basically said, Again, let me see if I can find it, or I can check in my gallery. I see the cheese sticker that Steph got.
Do you want
Mark
another
Borg and
half-ass
Free
drum
League.
roll?
Yeah, no, yeah. If I could get the drum roll, that would actually help me find this a lot better. Could you do that for me, actually? Screenshots. Yes, here it is. Use what excites and intrigues you, discard what doesn't, and make up the rest. That's my problem with 5e. Is like, here's the system, not very great. So do whatever you want with it. But here's all the rules you're supposed to follow if you do it the right way. But do whatever you want with it. That's not good game design. So basically, my issue is so again, objectively, we're gonna get a new book of monsters with all new revised stat blocks for stuff that already existed. Next year, we're gonna get 2 classic settings. We'll see what happens. But the Unearthed Arcana just dropped, and Thri-Kreen is listed in there. There's only one setting that has Thri-Kreen, and that is Dark Sun. Here's the problem.
Dude, there's no
Dark
way
Sun,
they're going to release Dark Sun. There's no way.
Dude, Thri-Kreen is in Unearthed Arcana.
I know, but like
as a playable race.
With the current discourse on like, I mean, like, is it like
everything?
So
we posted in our Discord about it, and the immediate reaction from pretty much everyone that knows anything about Discord says that whatever WotC 2021 does with Dark Sun, anyone that knows Dark Sun won't want it. So we'll see. But it's 2 classic settings, 1 setting revisited, which means the only other settings that aren't magic, because they said no more magic settings, are Eberron, which, please no.
You love Eberron.
Eberron is already too much Eberron. But
there's my AC guy. Excuse me, y'all.
No worries. I'll just keep ranting. The other one would be, in my opinion, I think what they should do is Forgotten Realms and just get out of the Sword Coast. Can we go to Thay, please? That would be fantastic. And then all of this comes down to, in 2024, they're going to take all of the changes that they've already done and all the changes they're going to add for the next 3 years and re-release everything all over again. All of the core books, everything with all of that revised stuff in it. So basically, all the things you're buying now and all of the revamped rules and all of those things are going to become obsolete in 2024 when basically 5.5 drops. Yeah. Yes. Yes, there's 2 Eber-wrongs don't make an Eber right. It is what it is. I just again, I have my own issues with 5e, and most of my issues with 5e are WotC turning a rules medium game into a rules heavy game by adding just repetitive content over and over again, and then making you buy it all over and over and over again. So that'll be the end of my WotC hate for right now, for this episode. Obviously, it's in like every episode. And it's not even hate, it's disappointment. You know what I mean? That's what bugs me. I love D&D. D&D is my favorite hobby I've ever had. I love 5th edition, especially when 5th edition came out. I met a lot of amazing people. I met a lot of amazing content creators. I've played a lot of adventures. I've had some moments that I'll remember for the rest of my life because of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And it's just really disappointing when something you love, you feel is being steered in a different direction. And I'm not like a bunch of little anime fans where I feel like it's mine and I have ownership of it and you need to do the way I want to do it. But it's not just me. I think WotC has become a monolith, and that monolith has actually opened the door to smaller content creators in other games. So if you look at like the ENnie Awards, for example, over the last couple of years, as 5e has put out more and more stuff that personally I don't enjoy, when you look at the ENnies, a lot of OSR games and smaller companies have really started to blossom in the shadow of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Free League Publishing has been the 2 years in a row running favorite game company, basically. I don't remember the exact name for it. And they've put out amazing award-winning things like Simbaroom and Alien RPG and gosh, everything on my shelves. Tales from the Loop. They've put out a bunch of them. Merkborg. They distribute Merkborg, like a bunch of amazing stuff. And a lot of those games are not 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of them are rules light OSR games that are really, really, really making that R in OSR a reality and bringing some amazing more rules light OSR style gaming to the forefront in the shadow of 5th edition, which has been interesting to move away from. And I know, Hunter, you and I have been talking about that a lot lately about, and I talked to Jason about it, and I've talked to Circe about it a lot too. And it basically comes down to 5th edition is kind of like a gateway drug. A lot of people will play it. It's really easy to get into. They did make it streamlined enough-ish, but it's big enough that that's what people will see. If you say tabletop role-playing games, people will be like, what? But if you say Dungeons & Dragons, people will be like, oh, okay. Like Stranger Things.
I do this literally all the time. Like, yeah. I'm like, people like, what do you do? Because I work at a rock climbing gym and I rock climb a lot. Who are like, what else do you do? I'm like, oh, I tabletop game, or I play tabletop games. And they're like, I don't know if they like, do you know what Dungeons & Dragons is? Like, oh yeah, totally, absolutely. I was like, okay, like that's exactly what that is, you know?
It is an entry, but what I've talked to a lot of people about is just again, I've talked about this repeatedly. One of the downsides of 5e is they pretty much just take a bunch of rules, throw it at the wall, and then say, for your game, whatever sticks, use that. You know what I mean?
Whatever works, you know.
It's almost modular at this point,
guys. We have a no design policy where we just like say a bunch of stuff, and then you can just pick and choose. Because, and the thing is, like, I'm very flexible about my table and the experience of my players. Like, I really actually do believe in that. But there's like a point where it's like, well, then you're just not designing a game anymore. Like, you know, I mean,
it's basically just modular at that point. Like, you know, just pick and choose.
It's too modular, not in like an enjoyable control.
Not in a good way, no. And the more I've talked to Circe a lot about game design, especially when I started kind of tweaking with my own potential game that I'm making and like using it as like a learning tool, but just even way prior to that, talking to Circe about a lot of stuff, really opened my eyes to. Because before, I would kind of almost defend that in a way. Just be like, you can do whatever you want with it. And now it's just like, but that's bad design. Like, you have to make it really yours. Yeah. But what I've talked to Jason a lot about is finding the game that does what you want to do. So if you want, like, you know, space horror, don't necessarily play 5th edition. Play, like, Alien or Mothership. Like, play games that fit what you want to do. If you want, like, a dark fantasy world, play Symbaroum or play like Spire or something like that. Like, pick a game that does what you want to do. Okay, Circe has a question. Question for you both. What do you feel is an ideal way for tabletop role-playing games to iterate on rules? Traditional games can release new printings of board games or publish errata on their site. War games do similar. All games rules change over time, either as edge cases are discovered or cultural use cases shifts, like software. So what should publishers do in your opinion? I think, so for example, right, let's use WotC for example, and let's use 5th edition and 3.5 and 4e and all those kind of things. If you look at the different editions of D&D throughout its history, I feel like there have been relatively stark differences in each edition as they came out. The difference being like 3 to 3.5, but 3.5 came out less than a year after 3, and it was pretty much just like, oops, here's a revision real quick. There you go. Let's run this for 15 years. You know what I mean?
Like it.
There, at least as far as I know, there hasn't been another edition of D&D where they like slowly filtered in new rules over years while keeping the old years kind of canon too. And then like let you know years ahead of time all the stuff you're doing now is going to get repackaged and sold back to you again. I genuinely think another game that's doing something different like that is like Mothership. I haven't played Mothership yet, but I've read through a lot of the rules, and I talked to Jason recently. I know the Mothership Kickstarter is coming out. Very fucking excited for that. And they're going to do a box set of like most of their adventures and stuff, which I already own. But they've made some big changes in Mothership. So they basically put Mothership out as I guess, a beta and released a lot of content for it. But there's some big changes in the new rules for Mothership. So they're not being like, just here's a little bit of errata, here's a little bit of that. They're releasing like Mothership again and all of the content you need to do again. And not only that, they're also releasing a adaptation document. So like if you already have gradient descent and you don't want to buy the new gradient descent with the new rules, there's a document on how to port that over.
That's
I
interesting.
just think a lot of the changes they're making to fifth edition aren't real changes. They're just convoluting the rules more than they're convoluting the rules. Like, if you don't like the way a spell is done and it's been that way for 3 years, leave it alone. It's just a crappy spell. You did a bad job. Like, for like, 4 or 5 years later to be like, oh, by the way, here's a slight tweak. Both are canon. Like, that's what irritates me about it.
Yeah,
If you're
I
gonna
actually
say,
that's my line. Like they're like, oh, just do whatever you want. Like I mean, like whatever. It's your table. Play your table however you want. I don't necessarily care about rules changes. I care about this weird, consistent 4 year drip feed we're gonna get from Wizards of the Coast, where they're just like, we're just gonna release some stuff and we're gonna change a little bit of stuff every single time.
yep,
And like,
yep.
yeah. I mean, to answer Cersei's question, like I think like block releases on rules changes are great. Like here's a set, here's a new set. It still works pretty much in line with the last like set that we released. There's some rule changes. But it just feels Wizards of the Coast is getting a little frantic, or just it feels frantic. And maybe I'm just biased. I just at this point I'm just like, man, I just don't like Wizards of the Coast anymore. But
I don't know if frantic's the word. I think they're like, I don't even know the word to describe it. It's just going to be this like slow bleed for years
yeah,
of like one thing into another thing. And to me, that is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. If you know in 3 years you're going to be re-releasing everything with a bunch of new rules and stuff like that, hold it for 3 years, come up with all those rules on the back end, and
just
then
drop
just
it.
drop it as a new release. And
Yeah,
you can
I super
say,
agree.
you can play 5 or you can play 5.5, but they're two separate editions. But to do this like slow bleed and then release it all again and say it's all, use whatever part of it you like, to me is the exact opposite of what you should do when you're releasing new rules and stuff like that. And what it is they're too scared to fuck up, is what it comes down to. Just like Unearthed Arcana and just like everything else, they never just release something. They playtest it and playtest it and playtest it using their customers
Right.
as testers before they ever get to it, which is fine when you're gonna put it in a book for people to use for like subclasses and stuff like that. But to actually release and Unearthed Arcana is free, but to actually release canonical rules changes to the public that we're going to pay for the next couple of years, and then package it all up again as like a new rule set and then dump it
JC guy again.
again.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. And then dump it again. To me, that is the exact opposite of what you should do. So, in my opinion, to answer your question, what I think they should do, if they are going to do this big batch of rules changes, play test it on the side, hire play testers, do whatever you need to do, and just drop it as one big piece. And just call it whatever you want to call it, 5B, 5.5, whatever you want, and make it different than the other. But again, to slowly smear it from one thing into the other over the course of years is just causing confusion, in my opinion. And it's definitely, I mean, a lot of the people that I've talked to, it's off-putting. It's off-putting because, like, someone who's been in the game since 2014 and someone who starts playing in 2021 are going to have or 2020, let's say 2022, are going to have completely different rule sets if you use the most up-to-date things, but both are correct. That's what gets me. Like,
Yeah.
I straight up just say I don't care about Tachas. Like, when I'm playing 5e, I'm like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't, until there's an entire new rule set and all that stuff becomes canon. I don't fuck with Tachas. Like, I don't like, it's interesting, cool. Some of the spells are a little different, cool,
I
whatever.
like the
Like, if in
spells.
your
I
app,
have been really enjoying the Tasha spells though, you know?
if it's in your app and it's updated, fine. I like, it's not like I have every spell memorized, whatever. But like, it's a bunch of, it's just convoluted. It's just convoluted.
Yeah.
It's murky. It's murky waters that I don't necessarily want to swim in. But yes, I hope that answers your question. Whatever Watsy's doing, not that. That's the answer. If you're gonna do a bunch of rules changes, bundle up as one big package and drop it as a new edition. Don't just slowly drip in new rules changes over the course of time. And like, again, everything has errata, and you post errata free on a website and
Yes,
you can make some
totally,
adjustments.
absolutely.
But errata is very different than what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
But
That's small updates, you know? Not.
Anyway, so to get off the okay, thank you for the answer. Do either of you think this recent flurry of rules iterations has anything to do with Jeremy Crawford's post about D&D explicitly pivoting to cater to the streaming CR crowd? Listen, I don't know if it's specific to that. I know that at one point the CEO of Dungeons and Dragons said the future of Dungeons and Dragons is video games. And there's not a statement that I've disagreed with more in a very
I
long
really
time.
hate the shit out of that statement, and I play a ton
It's
of video games, man.
Yeah, video games are video games. Literally, video games exist because of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Like the only reason we're streaming games right now is because I am unable to meet people in person. That's it. Because I'll tell you what, I don't like. I would drop the Adventure Archive in a heartbeat if I could meet with all of my friends in person every week again. Because that is so much different and so much better than online. Online, we have made it a great substitute and we've got really used to it. But in-person play is so much better. It runs more smoothly. You actually get like the feeling of people next to you. You don't talk over people as much because you know when someone's going to talk because body language starts to come out and things like that. Things you don't see looking at a screen. It's just better. The emotions are better. The vibe is better. You get a sense of the room better. Like every aspect of playing in person is better. So to think that suddenly like a video game version of it's going to be better is literally the antithesis of the reason most people play tabletop role playing games.
Yeah, I agree.
And
It's a
with the
social thing,
recent I don't know if you did you hear Twitch got hacked and like all of the streamer info got sent
Yes.
out there? Do you know who the number one revenue like who's earned the most money from Twitch since 2017?
That one hot chick that has an OnlyFans. I don't know.
It's like you just described like a third of Twitter or Twitch. It's Critical Role
Oh.
by a fat hefty margin. By a fat hefty margin. Critical Role is by far the biggest earner, which means if they're earning the most, they're earning the most for Twitch. How crazy is that Critical Role Dungeons and Dragons is the highest earner on Twitch since 2017. Straight Twitch money though, not
I still have not
sponsorships and
watched
stuff.
any
Oh,
Critical
it's
Role.
good. I mean, at the end of the day, it's good. I love Matt
I'm sure it's
Mercer.
great. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I really fell out of it during season 2, and I'm not going to watch season 3. But I loved Vox Machina. I have a ton of the Vox Machina books. Like I backed the cartoon, and I'm super excited for that coming out at the beginning of 2022. They're great people. I've met Matt Mercer. I met Marisha Ray. They're some of the nicest people I've ever met. They were incredibly gracious meeting fans. They bought me and Kaylee a drink. They talked to us for literally like an hour. They were some of the nicest people ever. I don't have anything bad to say about Critical Role whatsoever. But it's really interesting that a D&D stream has made the most money for Twitch since 2017. My understanding is that statement was taken out of context somewhat by social media people and that he was explicitly talking about the future of D&D's licensing. That's very true. Okay. And that the licensing of D&D is what Hasbro keeps D&D around for, since in terms of earnings, it's pretty anemic. Yeah. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I understand one of the reasons they're just like smashing Magic into D&D is to try to get that Magic the Gathering money. Because Magic the Gathering blows D&D out of the water.
Yeah, it
as
really
far as
does. I mean,
earnings.
God, dude, it's so crazy. I mean, I have so many tabletop game rule books in general, and I have about 2,500 Magic Gathering cards, and I've still spent more money on Magic than I have on. Oh yeah. But yeah, I've spent a crazy amount of money on Magic, and I barely play anymore. And I still buy. I got Strixhaven when it released, and I regret that decision immensely. But
the only setting that Magic put into D&D that I really liked was Theros. I think they did, and
Theros is
because
great.
it's a niche that is not in D&D really. I'm sure there might be some stuff way back in the past, but like they did it really well. As far as like an ancient Greek setting with a really cool spin on it, the gods are different enough. They're not the gods of like Nyx is really interesting. The campaigns and the character creation stuff is really interesting. I think Theros, because there is no, especially 5e like Theros. It fit really, really well. It goes back to one of Hunter's earlier points. I've been told, even by insiders in the past, that D&D is a skeleton crew that considered the farm club at WotC, but of course this is gossip, so bowl of salt. Yeah, I mean, I know there's not a whole lot of people over at D&D, which is really really interesting. And they've had their share of what am I thinking about? Like controversies, right? Like
Yeah.
Mike Merles can go fuck himself. He with everything that went down with Zach S and the sexual assault stuff. And for those that don't know about all of that stuff, Zach S is one of the guys that did a lot of Lamentation of the Flame Princess. Um, and Mike Merles was friends with Zach S. And apparently read it up on Google, but he defended him, and he actually, from what I remember, if I remember it correctly, when people were accusing Zach S., he was basically doxing those people behind the scenes and giving info to Zach S. about what was going on.
Really, I did not know that. So
Yeah,
that's
just
an
search it. Mike
interesting.
Merles is a piece of shit. And it basically, I mean, Zach S. is like a good looking dude and a porn star, and making at the time Lamentations of the Flame Princess was like a little darling kind of in the OSR world. So he had like a cool buddy and wanted to be one of the cool guys because he's not. And he really was facilitating a lot of shitty behavior with a sexual abuser. So there are no excuses. And Wizards of the Coast basically just went radio silent and ignored it until it went away. So
Yeah, that's great.
they've
Real
yeah
real good
they've
job handling that.
yeah, yeah, quote unquote handle. But
Yeah.
they've had their own versions of controversy and things like that. But anyway, again, so getting away from WotC and all of that stuff,
Sure.
tabletop games that you've been playing, tabletop games you're excited to play.
So we've been playing. I seriously cannot tell you guys how many Abaddon games I play. So I've been playing Broken World, which is Abaddon, who wrote Kill 6 Billion Demons. It's his PBTA, his Powered by the Apocalypse game, set in that world, and it's really over the top. It's after the first few levels is not amazingly balanced because it's kind of just a side project he put out, but it's very, very like over the top, overpowered, like a lot of fun. Whimsical maybe isn't the word for it because it's kind of fucking dark. Like that setting is like really dark, but I had a really great time. I had a group of all new people play it, and the rules were so easy to pick up that they were actually really able to like character play. And I was very familiar with the setting, so we played back and forth. So that was a lot of fun. I haven't in a while, but we were playing Cypher System from Monty Cook Games, which I have talked about for years with Brian. I actually really enjoy Cypher System. That one's great. I have played a one-person game of Lancer so far with myself because I built a little bit in Roll20. I just wanted to go through it, and I really am very excited to play that as an actual game. And then what else am I excited? I'm really excited for Lancer. Dude, there's so much Lancer content, and I'm so behind on it. And like every 6 months, like a new thing for Lancer comes out, and I'm just like, I want to play it. If you're not familiar with Lancer, it is a modular mech tactical TTRPG. So you have a mech, and you unlock license points that you can invest into all these different like mech types and get their weapons or the mech frame or these small abilities. You can make these really customized mechs, and it's fucking so cool. Damn it, it is just the coolest thing in the world. And I'm indexing really more towards like science fiction and science fantasy right now because I've just done so much high fantasy. For so long, I'm really like Troika. I think I'm really interested in playing as well.
Well, so interesting Troika stuff, especially if you're down for Lancer. So when I talk about Troika, especially when I gave it that like my personal vibe setting, my of two is Troika published content. But Troika, much like Merkborg, does allow you to have a lot of third-party content. And if you feel like blowing a lot of money, check out Exalted Funeral. But if you look at the beginning, this is Troika. Anyone may publish free or commercial material based upon and or declaring compatibility with Troika without express permission from the publisher or the Smithsonian Arts Council as long as they adhere to the following terms. If your product declares compatibility with Troika, you must state the following in your legal text and on any websites from which a commercial product is sold. Product name is an independent production by publisher name and is not affiliated with the Smithsonian Arts Council. I think I talked to you about this a little bit, but especially if you want to kind of smash together Troika and Lancer, there are two third-party.
Ooh.
Let me
Melee knows I'm trying to smash. Oh, my actual real name's on this. I should put that's okay.
maybe not have your name pop up every time, but the podcast won't hear it. No, this is not real. But here it is. The tragedy that beget Turnwillow, right here,
Okay.
is a Troika game book. That is mech.
Dude, I
You
love
literally
mechs,
have
man.
a timeline and chronology. You actually have character backgrounds for flying mechs.
Really?
You actually have full mech stat blocks. And then that's the original one. And then they put out a new one. This one is called Turnwillow, the Waves It Crashes. Hardcore, full color
That is
mech
an
action.
amazing layout.
Yeah.
That looks
The
really
layout.
good.
Um,
Melee, I'm trying to
so
stop impulse buying stuff, man. You are not helping right
hey,
now.
I
Maybe
have
I
all
can
this stuff. You
afford
don't
this
need
right
to.
now.
We'll just play it. But yeah, look at some of this stuff. So yeah. For those that aren't that are listening to the podcast, Ian, it's Turnwillow, the Waves It Crashes. It is the part of the Turnwillow series for Troika, where you are straight up mechs, and your advanced skills and things like that are about mech flying. There's actually full like response networks and everything. It's pretty badass.
That looks
Um,
awesome.
a lot of the third party content for Troika are games that I absolutely would play.
Okay.
Um,
I mean,
so
I'm
that's
down.
interesting.
I'm down for that.
Yeah,
That sounds awesome. So I'll probably get
but
the hardcover.
Jason and I were actually talking about lately, kind of wanting to scratch a science fiction, science fantasy itch too. And I know that Critical Role actually just did a one shot where they homebrewed the Alien RPG and Mothership together into an adventure.
I haven't looked at Mothership yet. So what is Mothership? I know
Mothership
what Alien is.
is yeah, the Alien RPG. What's cool about
Yeah.
the Alien RPG, Fear League Press does it kind of cinematically, so you can do an adventure that literally is written to have to like be like a movie. Like there's a
Very
arc
cool.
to it and an ending and everything. Mothership is like a science horror RPG. It's amazing. But again, they're releasing a box set of it November 2nd, I believe, on Kickstarter. With all of the games that they've actually put out already, like Dead Planet and stuff. It's like Tuesday Night Games, I think, is the publisher. And they're re-releasing. They're not re-releasing. I guess Mothership's always been kind of a beta. They've adapted a ton of the rules, and I think they turned it from like a 2d6 into a d20 system, but kept a
Okay.
lot of it. So there's basically two versions, but the premise is basically it's sci-fi horror. It's just like horror in space. So that's a really fun one that Jason and I are really looking at playing. So again, here on the Adventure Archive on Thursdays, it's our non D&D night. So we're going to be doing like Victory Basic. We're going to be doing Call of Cthulhu. We're going to be doing Mothership. We're going to be doing Troika. Those are a lot of the games that are coming
Nice.
forward. But I think after Call of Cthulhu, Mothership is really going to be here to scratch that science, that sci-fi horror itch. Um, and there, I actually just found, I just on freaking Exalted Funeral, there's another Mothership game book that just dropped. That's basically Event Horizon.
Well, which one's Event Horizon? Don't make fun of me for
Event
not pronouncing this
Horizon
stuff.
is the one where they create like the engine that can like fold space and move from one to the
Ah,
other.
gotcha. Yes.
But it's like a horror movie.
I'm in. I'm too. I'm up for anything sci-fi right now.
Yeah. Have you?
So
Do you
I'm
know what I'm
going
talking
back
about?
through
Have you seen?
Dune right now. So that's why I'm like
Oh,
really, yeah.
well, so there is a
So
Dune RPG, and the Dune movie drops in like 2 weeks. The
I
first
know I'm
half.
stoked.
Yeah. So I would love to play the Dune RPG. I haven't read the book. I watched the original movie with David Lynch. A lot of people hated it. I didn't mind it
I
at
hate
all.
that
People thought it
fucking
was hard to
movie.
follow. What's up?
Oh, I hate that movie. It's just like super inaccurate from the book. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know that, but like the movie cannot be like the book. But like the thematically, David Lynch's understanding or I guess interpretation of Dune is not even in line with the
Oh.
actual
Well,
interpretation of Dune. So
after I watch it, I'll have to actually read the book after I watch the new
Yeah, you
one.
should.
So
It's fantastic. The first one's
yeah,
really good. Then the second one is fine, and the third one is fantastic, and the fourth one's fantastic, and then
and then
yeah.
it's trash because this kid takes over, right?
No, that part's really great. That's the so it's Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and is the last one Chapter House Dune? I think that's it. Those are the last of the original. His son picked it up, and his son has no idea what he's doing. Shout out
Gotcha.
Brian. But yeah, they're great. They're super weird, but the philosophy behind them and like what's happening is insane. I could not suggest it anymore. I've read it. I've read the original Dune like 20 times. So
Yeah, no, I mean, you've been trying to get me to read it forever. I had another buddy that's trying to get me to read it forever. It's not that I don't want to, and it's not that it's not at the top of my list. I just go in phases where I like I'll obsessively watch movies, or I'll
right,
obsessively watch anime, or I'll obsessively read manga, or I'll obsessively
yeah,
read books. Like I pick a type of content, and then that's all I do all the time. And right now, I'm
yeah. It's
just
called
deep,
ADHD,
deep,
man.
deep. Yeah, yeah. Oh, hardcore. Yeah. Um, I'm deep into just reading manga, dude. I've just been plowing through mangas, and
Nice.
when I don't feel like reading, I'll just throw on an anime. And there's just so much content. Did you watch? We're not going to get into it. Did you watch Squid Games yet?
I have not yet.
So good, it's worth it.
I know.
But
Everyone tells me.
yeah, but that's the content that I'm absorbing right now. But as soon as I get back into reading books, I think Dune is going to be way at the top of the list.
It's
But
really
it's also one of the
fantastic.
things. Once you read the first one, you have to read all six. Then you're stuck for like 6 months. You know.
No, you don't. I mean, the first one wraps up in a way that you could just not read
I
the
mean,
rest of
do you
them.
know me?
But yeah, you
Yeah.
will.
All right.
But if you can, the second one's not bad. It's just not as I don't think it's as fun. Because it's not as fun.
Well,
So
and
the
to relate
third
that to
one,
tabletop games, there is a Dune RPG, and I almost impulse buyed it off of Amazon. But I'm gonna wait till I at least read the book before I get the before I buy the game. But there are some other really really awesome. So like I will
who made
never
who
not.
made the Dune RPG? What company?
I don't know. I think I know that like Mephidius distributes it. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know who actually, because I don't think it's Free League. Oh, did you know that Free League is putting out a Blade Runner RPG beginning of next year?
Ooh, no, but I would totally play a
Yep.
fucking Blade Runner art. See, this is exactly what I'm looking for right now. 100%. I really want to do something spacey and sciency and futuristic-y and dystopian-y.
Yeah, Modifius Entertainment. I know, but I thought Modifius was a distributor. I didn't know that they were a game creator.
Hey man, if you pay $109, you get the Dune RPG Harkonnen limited edition. Sign me up, baby.
Is there a limited edition?
Yeah.
All I know is one of my biggest pet peeves with literally anything is getting the TV or movie art on the front of the cover. Like
Yeah.
a book that becomes a movie, and then you can only find the book with the fucking
Yeah.
people from the movie
Every
on
year
it.
after that.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I know that they are. I think they re-released Dune RPG with like Timothy Chalamet or something like on the front of it. Um,
One doesn't look like it has
so
Timothy Chalamet on it, so
what am I
I think I
looking at?
found one
Dune
that
House of
doesn't.
Secrets. Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
a board game. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So Modifius does that. Modifius does a lot of distribution for Free League in the States too, so you can go through Modifius to get some cheaper shipping and stuff like that.
Cool. Good to know.
Um, and it's through Legendary Entertainment. So, I guess much like how A24 put out Green Knight, which was a great game by the way. I
I
don't know
was,
if you
I
got to
was
watch it.
actually going to ask you if you knew anything about that because
Yeah.
I'm really interested in playing that one as well.
Dude, we have a look on our YouTube. Everybody, YouTube. Oh, and I don't know if you know yet, but we hit 100 subscribers, so now we are youtube.com/the Adventure Archive. We got a customized URL. And you can watch the Green Knight RPG. The only thing that killed me about the Green Knight RPG, and Jason did a great job with it, is you get the game, they don't send you a PDF version of it. You just get the physical game.
Oh, that's kind of
Yeah.
lame.
Yeah, it's super lame. But otherwise, great. It was really, really fun, and I've still yet to see The Green Knight. I know it
Same.
is exactly my type of movie. Pretty much everything A24 puts out is like slow and moody and like burning, and that's
Just
my
like
shit.
you.
Yeah. Um, Yeah. And then another game I really, 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 really want to play super bad that Jason introduced me to is Symbaroum, which is basically Free League's like dark fantasy world.
Okay.
Looks amazing. Of course, I then bought all of it.
When are
Um,
we gonna play Necronautilus?
oh yeah, we haven't even talked about World Champ games. Like I really
Yeah,
enjoy
we're gonna talk
Adam
about World.
Vass.
Ah, dude,
Yeah, I like
great
Adam
stuff.
Vass. I like Adam
Yeah,
Vass. What's interesting about Adam Vass is like the games aren't perfect. They're perfectly imperfect, which I really, really enjoy.
yeah.
Um, he even has a Patreon where he puts out like a game a month. And sometimes it's just like 4 pages or whatever. Like I got in a bunch of my Exalted Funeral stuff. I got a game on a business card. It's literally an entire game system that fits on a business card, and it's really interesting. It's basically Cowboy Bebop on a business card. There's like, it's a super simple roll system. You get like 3 stats to it, which is basically like Cowboy and Bebop. And it's not really, but it's like shooting and styling basically. And that's the whole game, and it's super easy to just be like, fuck it, we're trying something different. And a lot of the Adam Vass World Champ games are up, and we will be reviewing some on screen. We're definitely going to go over Necronautilus. We're definitely going
Yeah,
to go over like
we
Call
have
Down the
to.
Moon.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really great stuff that he's put out. And again, they're not like supposed to be amazing perfect games. Like they're literally like, I had a cool idea, I turned it into a game that's super fun. um Run it as a one shot or something. Here's really cool. We actually are going to be doing, this is another announcement for all the mass crowd of people listening and watching
the
right now.
hundreds of people hearing our
Yeah,
voice.
the
So.
hundreds that are listening to us on stream. Thank you, fans, for being here. We're gonna be playing Aurora with a very fun group of people. And Aurora is a game where you actually create you mail cards to each other, basically tarot deck. You build your own oracle deck through the mail using each other's zip codes as inspirations to create the cards, and then you use
Oh,
the
I remember
cards to,
you talking about this.
yeah, and then you use the cards to play the game. So everyone passes the cards back and forth. Everyone builds a deck together and then uses a deck to play. And we have a very, very fun crew that'll be doing that probably in a couple weeks. Considering I have the cards right here, I was supposed to mail them like 3 weeks ago, and they're still sitting next to me. I just have to actually be awake during the day to go to the post office and actually mail these to somebody. But we will be playing Aurora as well. But yeah, a lot of the stuff back there is broken down by type. We've played the shit out of Merkborg, and I'll play that forever. Cyborg is coming out. I don't know if you saw that. It's
No, I didn't.
basically it's basically sci-fi Merkborg. It's like a brutal space.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Seriously?
yeah, Cyborg. Yeah, they'll be
Oh,
dropping the
I would
Kickstarter soon.
totally fucking play
You should
that.
see the cover for it. Here, let me look up Cyborg real quick, and I'll show that to the audience. Cyborg, Morkborg.
I don't know if you guys can hear the sound of tiny kittens mewing, but we have five
Gross.
kittens
Fuck
right
off.
now.
Um.
There.
Oh yeah, here you go. Okay, so let's go back to the. I'll just go to a straight freaking full screen. These are Reddit posts. This is not the. Look at that. It's on my stream. Let's turn off chat box. Then we can turn off. Yeah. Oh, Johan Noor. Yeah, Johan Noor is an amazing, amazing artist. Look at this. Look at this. Look at how absolutely badass this is. So Johan Noor is doing the art. Pele Nelson is not doing the rules. There are some rules changes. Um, but yeah, so that's, I mean, they have like this kind of stuff. Um, they got some of the spreads inside. Like look at that. freaking beautiful. This is a gorgeous spread. Look at that. Oh, for those on the podcast, look at Cyborg. This is the combat page. Johan Noor is just killing it with some of the stuff, but you can see how it's like similar to Morkborg, especially in the layout, but how it's updated to like a sci-fi version of it. So on this page, it's a combat page. It's talking about initiative, range damage, drone combat, crits and fumbles. Absolutely gorgeous. The first thing we were looking at is the cover. It's absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. So yeah, so if you're in a Merkborg and getting a science fiction itch too, Cyborg will be dropping soon.
Like, I'm really genuinely so excited for that. I didn't know about it till right
Yeah,
now in this conversation,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
like that is I love Morkborg, and I'm bummed I haven't been able to play it with you guys.
Hey, listen,
But
we'll see.
yeah, I
We'll
mean,
see.
I'll be around
Um,
on Thursday nights, dog.
hey,
But yeah, dude, Cyborg sounds really cool, and now I'm gonna go stalk it on the internet
yeah,
until it
dude,
exists.
stock it on the interwebs. Like it looks really fantastic. So a lot of really good science fiction stuff is dropping really soon. I don't know if you checked out Into the Odd. I know that it's the same guys that
I
did
did. I
same guy that
backed
did
it.
yeah. So Into the
Yeah,
Odd is coming out. The new Mothership box set is coming out. Cyborg is coming out. A lot of really really awesome science fiction content is going to be coming out probably the end of next year. Because all of those things are going to take time. I don't understand. Mothership has had forever. They have a box set all ready to go, but it's gonna take like a year after they do the Kickstarter to actually release it. So I don't understand why you would even put it out if you weren't done yet. Like if I was gonna do a Kickstarter, I'd be like, everything's done. It's all done. Maybe a stretch goal I have to finish, and that's about it. So we'll
unless you need
see.
the funding, and like you're like this is a thing I can absolutely do. It's just I am running low on funds, you know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I
Oh,
understand that
you
to a
know what
point.
game I did back? That I
What's that?
know like a lot of people back, but I'm still interested to see how it plays.
Avatar?
Yeah, I did back it.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
was reading through it, and I'm not sure that it's a game that I'm really gonna like to consistently play. But you know, it's a freaking Avatar, and maybe I did the highest level of backing on Kickstarter.
Of course you
Maybe,
did.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
I
I
fucking
missed
did.
Avatar by a couple of years. You're of an age where I think Avatar was for you, and I think I was just a
Yes, it
little
was
bit
literally
older.
exactly for me.
Yeah, I
So
think it was because I'm what, like 6 years older than you,
yeah, I turned 30 last Sunday. So
and I turned 36 like 4 days before that.
happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks for
I'm
that text message.
I'm a terrible
Um,
friend.
yeah, you are. It's fine. Um, but yeah, let's wrap up some. What's can I talk to you else about tabletop role playing games? I mean, I think yeah, your first game, your favorite game, your games you're excited for. That's where we're at.
Yeah,
So
first
yeah,
favorite. Yeah, my favorite. What is my favorite game right now? I don't know. I am like I was just very happy to switch over to anything that was like the 2D6 system. I actually just enjoy it like so
yeah,
much
dude. How
more.
great is Powered by the Apocalypse? It's
It is
fantastic. Like
so great, you
one thing I love
know.
about it is it gives you so much more freedom for role play too. Like
You
I
bet.
don't feel boxed in by the system. I don't feel
You're
boxed in by the system.
because you're fucking
Yeah,
not. And
you're not.
the other
Yeah,
thing is that I'm playing D&D again with another group, and I'm realizing that the moment combat starts, how much less fun it is because
yeah,
combat is so time consuming in
yeah,
D&D. It takes so
yeah.
much time,
It
and
really
like
is.
with my group of new players when I did Broken Worlds, which is powered by the Apocalypse, it was like it was so fast, you
Mhm.
know, like
Well,
they yeah,
we
shout
have
out.
a wonderful game coming up. Victory Basic.
I
Zero session October
know.
21st. I'm very excited for that. Powered by the Apocalypse D&D, man. Powered by the Apocalypse Dungeon Delving D&D. I am
Yeah,
so excited. Again,
dude,
we are
I
going to start
really want to
the
play as a wizard, like really pretty severely. So
Okay, well, listen, you can duke it out with Ginger and Mado and
I'm good. Actually, honestly, after reading through them all, I'm actually really good playing any of them. I think you just
mhm.
know that I always play as a wizard.
I know you always play a fucking wizard.
I always
Yeah.
play a fucking wizard,
If you
bro.
want to
It's
call dibs on it and just have Ginger and
I will have a civil discussion as part of a group of people of equals. I'm
yeah.
not gonna call dibs because we're talking beforehand.
At the end of the day, Ginger is newer to D&D in general. So I think this will be a really fun intro where you don't need to worry about the rules as much because it's such like
Yeah,
a cleaner system. But just like in D&D, fighter is more straightforward than having to deal with spells and stuff. So maybe you could be wizard, and Mato can be cleric, and Ginger can be fighter, and we'll rock it that way. Wait till you see the layout that Jason is cooking. It is it's gorgeous. It's
I'm stoked. I cannot tell you how
no.
excited I am.
Yeah,
I
that's
really am very
less
excited.
than less than 2 weeks from now will be the zero session
Yeah,
for this, and then we're going to be taking let me look at the calendar. We have a whole calendar. I actually have a Google calendar I should probably open, but 21st is a zero session. 28th we will be doing on stream. We'll be doing 10 candles, which is like a horror game for Halloween.
cool.
And then a week after that, we will be doing Victory Basic, like 3 weeks of Victory Basic, and then move from Victory Basic into, I think on Thursday nights we're going to be doing Call of Cthulhu next. But Jason will have to say what's coming up after that. But I'm definitely going
Very
to save
cool.
the layout's going to be here forever. We're going to be running that. And then not only that, another like little announcement we're going to talk about. I love doing this podcast. It's really fun, but reading through the book by myself and kind of debating with myself about things, it's not as fun as having someone with me. So for a lot of the sessions going forward, a lot of our episodes here on the Weekly Scroll, Hunter here will actually be with me while we read through the books together.
Woo! Y'all are stuck with
And
me.
yeah, and talk a little bit more in depth about some of the rules and things that come from the various games. So actually, for next week, we are going to. I finished Troika this week. So what game would you like to do next week? Because you can go ahead and pick it.
Oh,
Because
do I
I
have to
have
pick
a
right
couple.
now?
I have a couple that I would pick from, but I figured if you wanted to do one of the Abaddon games, you could do Lancer if you wanted. We
I
could
would love,
do
like, you guys. Do you guys want to go through Lancer? I would love to go through Lancer. I would
yeah,
love to. I
yeah.
think
Why don't
very
we do
highly of it.
Lancer?
Or we could go through Abaddon's new game that's in playtest right now called Icon, which is a fantasy version.
Let's just go
Uh,
with Lancer. Let's just go with
okay,
Lancer.
cool. Let's go through Lancer.
Yeah. You have the
Absolutely.
PDF of Lancer, right?
I have all of the PDFs, dude.
All of
I
it.
got
So
all
we'll
of them.
just
I got some third party ones. Let me tell you.
we'll go through Lancer. Do you think Lancer's I mean, if we don't have a guest next week, we could basically just go from like 8 to 11. Do you think we'll get through all of Lancer in 1 week? How many pages do you think it is? Troika's about like
Um,
120 pages.
it's probably more than that. I mean, I think the bulk of what like of Lancer, like where you really get into the depth, is like the lore because there's so much of it.
Okay. Well,
But
we can
I
we
think
can
we
go through that.
definitely
So
we can get through quite a bit of it. We probably can't get through all of it. We might we might want to just like pick out beforehand mechs that we like specifically because going through each and every single mech type is going to be like
oh
really
no
time
no no! We
consuming.
we would just go
Yeah.
do an overview of the type and then maybe build one together. That's what I like doing. So when I did Troika Part One, when we were doing character creation, I just built a character as we went through the character creation. So we could always just like skim through the mechs, pick one we like, build one on screen, and then maybe even do some of the roles later for that stuff too.
Cool.
And just take it from there. And if it takes 2 weeks, it takes 2 weeks. I got no fucking time limit on this shit. Like
Cool. Awesome.
it
I'm
doesn't make a
super for it.
difference. There are so I do one of the segments I do want to start doing soon is solo or duo adventures for the last like hour and a half of the stream, where we'll go over a game and then starting from like 9:30 to 11, we'll go through some of the like I'll either do some solo journaling stuff or we'll do some two-person adventures, and I have backed a couple of those on Exalted Funeral, so those will be really fun
Yeah.
to do.
Is
Um,
Necronaut a two-person adventure? Are you able to play it with Game Master in one person?
I don't think it's a solo adventure. I think there's a
Okay.
group of people.
I think it gave you the option for a group. I think it might be one
Yeah.
to three. So
Yeah, that'd be fun. We could do a 1 to 3. It could definitely be fun to bring some people on.
yeah.
And Necronautilus does look cool. Again, I really do like Adam Vast. I do like the World Champ games. He's put a lot of stuff out, and I backed a lot of it. So we'll be playing a bunch of those. There's some other really fun, interesting games he's put out. He put out one that's basically like a newspaper, but it's basically Evil Dead 2 as a game. Um,
Oh
so
yeah.
it's really interesting. Basically, you're fucking around until someone gets possessed, and then that person tries to kill everybody, and that's the game. Um, so
That's amazing.
it's yeah, it looks really interesting. Again, I really like the way that Adam Vast does a lot of the games. So yeah. Um, but that's gonna be this episode of the Weekly Scroll. We are going to go ahead and raid into Ginger. Um, but thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Sir Stuff, for being here. I'm very excited for Victory Basic. We're going to be doing that very
Very
soon.
stoked.
At some point, I will turn this into an actual podcast. I finally have the technology, thanks to Steph and Ian. So I will hopefully within the next couple of weeks actually make this a podcast that people will actually be able to listen to, and then I can get yelled at to talk more instead of describing, instead of just bringing up pictures. I'll describe them a little bit better for all you people that
We'll
are only
practice.
listening.
We'll paint you all a
Yeah,
word picture. Several word pictures.
we'll get better at actually making it a podcast. But you could also check us out on Twitch, twitch.com/the Adventure Archive, or twitch.tv. You can check out our YouTube for all of our episodes of Dark Kingdoms, of Merkborg, all the games we play. You can check us out every Wednesday for our Evil campaign, Dark Kingdoms. And as we said before, Thursdays are for the non-D&D tabletop role-playing games. And every Saturday here, 7:30 to roughly 11 Pacific Standard Time with myself and now with Hunter here. You can check us out on the Weekly Scroll. So I'm going to start sending us into... shit. We'll bounce over to Ginger. Again, thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And
Thanks,
then we
y'all.
will see you Wednesday, Thursday, or next week. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.